Hi everyone, welcome to a very special edition of a World Football Stream. This is not your average Thursday evening or afternoon where I'm standing in front of a plastic plant or anything. No, this is real. And why? Because it's the big occasion. Today is the day where we find out the permutations of the World Cup, which pathways each nation are going to have. Is one nation going to get a very hard draw? Is one going to start thinking, hey, maybe we can do this. This is looking a little bit easier than we expected. Today's the day. We're going to find out all of it. Groups A through, what is it, L? There's 48 teams now, so there's many more groups to get through. But don't worry, we'll get through them all. And we'll get through whatever else FIFA has planned for us because, guys, this is obviously a living organism that we're going to be covering. This presentation, even though it's a draw, it's going to be a presentation of all sorts of things. There's Kevin Hart, there's Heidi Klum, there's the Village People. It's going to be crazy, but we have a lot of things planned for you guys to sort of fill that time. And you can actually help us, whether you're in the BR app, whether you're on the BR Football YouTube channel, joining us for that live stream. Do drop your thoughts. Give us your opinions on things, who you want to see in your nation's group, who you don't want to see, your group of death, everything. Please let us know, and I'll be happy to answer any questions and comments that you guys may have. So, speaking of all these teams, let's get to them. Let's look at the 48 teams, because this, of course, is a different kind of thing than we're used to. You know, usually it's the 32-team World Cup. It's 8 groups of 4. This time, this expanded format, the first time ever, that means that there's going to be an extra round as well. Now, the 48 teams, as you can see, USA, Canada, Mexico, Spain, France, all the way through to the bottom. We also have these TBDs, these question marks. Now, these 6 countries are going to be added to the 42 that we already have. And now 4 are going to come from the UEFA playoff, of course, which will be happening in March, and then 2 from the Intercontinental playoff that is happening also in March, hosted by Mexico. Just looking at the bottom there, Curacao, some of these teams that are sort of popping out at me, Curacao is one of them. Of course, you've heard a lot about Curacao, how they are the smallest nation to ever qualify, I think both by land mass and certainly by population, where it's about 155,000, beating that record that was formerly held for a minute by Cabo Verde. They had the belt for a second that they'd taken from Iceland, and then it got snatched away from them super, super quick. And just one more thing about Curacao, because I believe that there's only one player that is actually born on the island of Curacao, you know, former Dutch colony, so they have a lot of players that are just with that Dutch passport but are playing for their motherland, as you will. And that one player that was born on Curacao is Tahith Chong, formerly of Manchester United. So it's going to be so interesting. That's the one thing about this World Cup that I think is going to be really fun. There's some people that are saying, oh, it's going to be over diluted with all these teams, etc. But I think the fun thing is going to be some of these stories, right? And as we look at the pots here, starting in pot 1, now, of course, they do sort of organize these pots by the FIFA rankings, right? That's why you see Spain, Argentina, France, England, Brazil, Portugal, Netherlands, Belgium, Germany. But you also have the 3 hosts, Canada, Mexico, and the United States, which, by the way, we already know which groups they're going to be in. The United States are going to be in Group D. Mexico are in Group A. They're playing the opener to the tournament, and Canada is in Group B. So yeah, those are already set. And then the next pot, 48 nations divided into 12 groups of 4. That gives you your 48. The next pot, you have Croatia, Morocco, Colombia, Uruguay, Switzerland, Japan, Senegal, Iran, Korea Republic, Ecuador, Austria, Australia. Pot 3, Norway, Panama, Egypt, Algeria, Scotland, Paraguay, Tunisia, Cote d'Ivoire, Uzbekistan, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, South Africa. And pot 4, as you can see, we just have Jordan, Cabo Verde, Ghana, Curacao, Haiti, New Zealand. The interesting thing now is with the UEFA playoffs and the Intercontinental playoffs is that while all the other pots are arranged by FIFA ranking, you're going to get some wild cards in that pot 4, which makes the draw spicy, right? Because you may have an Italy that's ranked somewhere in the top 15. You may have a Denmark that's ranked around 20th in the world. That should probably be a pot 2 team. Suddenly, they're a pot 4 team, and you're thinking, okay, who am I going to get for my pot 4 team? Is it going to be one of these, you know, newcomers or lower ranked nations? Or Are we going to get royally screwed and it's going to be in Italy or something like that? Now, speaking of these playoffs, let's just get into it, because you have this UEFA playoff bracket, that tournament that I was talking about, that's going to be happening in March, as you can see. So, Path A, you have Wales or Bosnia who are going to be hosting that final, and they will play the winner of Italy or Northern Ireland. So, Italy, third straight time that we've seen them go to a playoff for a World Cup qualification. They failed in the last two. In 2018, they lost to Sweden. In 2022, they lost to North Macedonia. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Now they're playing Northern Ireland, which of course they will feel confident about that. They're hosting that match as well. But then they have to go away to either Wales or Bosnia and Herzegovina, which is not going to be easy for them. In Path B, Ukraine or Sweden will host that final. They'll play the winner of either Poland or Albania. The interesting thing there is let's say Ukraine wins. They've been playing all of their qualifying matches in Poland, obviously, with the conflict that's going on in Ukraine. So you got to wonder, I don't know if they've announced it already, but you got to wonder if Ukraine are going to decide to not play their host match in Poland, if that is to happen. So we'll have to see there. And then you have Path C, where Slovakia or Kosovo will host the final. Up against either Turkey or Romania, and finally Path D, where Czechia or Ireland will host the final, up against either Denmark or North Macedonia. Now, let's get into the other playoff tournament that we have. Like I said, that's going to be happening in Mexico, so it's going to be on neutral ground for this one. The first one that you have is the final one, where DR Congo are already there, because what FIFA did is the two highest ranked teams in this intercontinental playoff do get the advantage of going straight to the final. So DR Congo and Iraq are already in the two respective finals. Now, DR Congo will play against either New Caledonia or Jamaica. New Caledonia obviously will be a newcomer. Jamaica haven't played since 1998 at the World Cup. And then on the other side, Iraq will play either Bolivia or Suriname. Now, Suriname, this would be a first time for them. Bolivia, this would be their third appearance, and their most recent appearance at the World Cup was actually when the United States hosted it last time in 1994. So this one's interesting. It's like a little mini kind of world tournament that we get to take in on up in March. Which I'm really, really looking forward to, because, you know, UEFA, it's all UEFA versus UEFA. We've seen that, but this is sort of like a primer for the World Cup of these different confederations competing against each other. So yes, very much looking forward to that. Now, I think we're going to move on to sort of is it the pods that we're moving on to next? The explainer, okay. So, this is how the draw is going to happen. I had to brace myself for this, because there's a lot of things to get through here. 48 nations are going to be divided into the 12 groups. All pots are allocated into groups A through L. Now, of course, countries from the same confederation cannot be in the same group except for UEFA, because there's going to be 16 UEFA nations. So each group will get one UEFA nation. 4 groups will have 2 of them out of the 12. So nations in the same pot cannot face each other in the group stage, as we know. And then USA, Mexico, and Canada are automatic qualifiers and are assigned to their respective groups. It's going to be, like I said, it's going to be some juggling that's going to happen, because first, when you go through pot 1, it's just going to be assigned from A through L. Pot 2, assigned from A through L. But then at pot 3 is when it gets interesting, and they're going to kind of jump through. They have this different protocol where they're going to start to allocate teams to certain groups, because you can't have those clashes of confederation. There's also the UEFA playoffs to take into consideration, and them and where they're going to get placed. So it's going to get a little bit dicey at that point. But we will just follow the guidance of whoever it will be that will be opening the balls for us during this World Cup draw. I'm very interested in how the World Cup itself is going to play out, as far as we're going to have an extra round. So now previously, you had just the round of 16. You go straight from the group stage to the round of 16. But now, since there's these extra 16 teams at this World Cup, there's going to be an additional round. There's going to be a round of 32. So the top 2 from each group will advance. But then on top of that, I mean, that only gives you 24 teams, right? So to get those final 8 teams, the top third place finishes, the top 8 third place teams are going to be making it into that round of 32 to round things out again. So every single final match day, you're going to see that sliding table of the top ranking of the third place teams, as we've seen in many tournaments, like such as the Euro, etc. It's being embraced by all these tournaments that are expanding constantly. Soon we'll have 64 teams at the World Cup. I'm sure. Don't tempt them. They'll do it. So that is what you can expect next. It used to take 7 matches to win the World Cup. Now you have to win 8. So there's that additional match that you have to get through. And look, it's not going to be easy. It's because additionally there's going to be the top 4 teams that are going to be divided into the different areas of the tournament, but we'll get into that in a moment. Now, Manlasi Mame is saying, let's hope this World Cup doesn't go to Europe. I'd like to see RSA or Morocco at least get to a final. That would be amazing if Morocco could repeat that as well and get to a final this time, do one better than they did last time, becoming the first African nation to ever make it to a semifinal. They have played very well recently in their qualifiers, although some people have started making accusations of who have they played recently. You know, they're beating up on these teams that you'd expect them to beat up on in Africa. And so there are some question marks being asked there. However, as we saw, with just limited amount of preparation, Regragui taking on Morocco job in the same year that the World Cup was happening in 2022, they played outstanding, taking the scalps of Spain, Portugal, all the way to the semifinals, where they did eventually lose to France. However, a ton to be proud of, and they have a very strong side. I mean, one of the best, certainly the best African player this year, crowned Achraf Hakimi, right back, best right back in the world for my money, when he's not injured. Maybe Jurrien Timber has something to say about that, but let's see if Morocco can do it once again. They're definitely a team that gets that dark horse status, and they absolutely deserve to have it. Now, people who are not, or nations who are not dark horses in the slightest, let's look at the top 4 ranked countries, because they're going to be separated. So FIFA has this new rule now where they want these teams to be separated so that you don't have any sort of early blockbuster matches where a big team such as a Spain or an Argentina or a France or an England will go out early. So what they're going to do is they're going to arrange them as such where that they won't meet until the final. Spain and Argentina, that is. France and England will also be on opposite sides of the tournament bracket. So Spain could only meet a France or an England in the semi-finals. Same thing with Argentina. Now the catch is that this will only happen for the teams that win their group. So let's say England, as an example, comes in second in their group. Let's say they've been dealt a really tough hand for their group. If they finish in second and all those other teams finish in first, they can slide into that same bracket as one of the other teams, and then you will have one of those blockbuster matches earlier in the knockout rounds. But if all of these teams top their groups, Spain and Argentina will not meet until the final if they are to make it that far, and they won't meet any of France or England until the semifinals. So this is a polarizing thing for sure. This is something that a lot of people have said, why are we doing this? You know, we like those sort of early tournament matches. For example, like if the rankings were the exact same at the previous World Cup, which they obviously weren't, you wouldn't have seen Morocco taking on Spain that early. You wouldn't have seen Morocco taking on, or you wouldn't have seen England losing to France that early in the tournament, in the quarterfinals, I believe it was. Harry Kane missing that penalty. So I personally feel as though I wouldn't do this. This is just my opinion. I like having those upsets early in the tournament. I like seeing a team like Morocco being able to make it all the way to the semifinal and create history like that. The teams that are already very good, I don't know that they need a competitive advantage. You could argue, oh, maybe they deserve it because they are so good. It's sort of like an added seeding in a way. But for me, it's not, it seemed like an unnecessary kind of change. And this is just a way to sort of visualize it. So you can see how there's sort of these two pathways. There's each side of the bracket. And so where the semifinals meet, that's the earliest that you could see either an England or France meet each other. But basically just look at it like this way. If you see the sort of the top corner and the bottom corner of each side, that's where this given teams will be placed. So Argentina in the top left, Spain in the top right, France bottom left, England bottom right, that kind of thing. So they would only meet at the semi-finals. What do you guys think of this? Do you like it? Do you dislike it? I see that The One is saying on YouTube that this format change only helps the higher ranked teams, and I would kind of have to agree with you there. I do think that it does give them a competitive advantage for sure. My guy Steven saying seems scripted for big teams to meet later on. Yeah, I mean, I think that they basically, without saying it, that is what they want to happen. They say that it's for a competitive sort of fairness, but it's kind of a, saying it without saying it kind of thing. Yeah, that's not really what I want to see. So I think that now we're going to move on to the teams that are sort of making their debut, or sorry, not the teams, but the players, big players who are going to be making their debut. I want you guys in the chat also, if there's anyone who you think of that you think is a worthy of speaking about that could be making their debut at this World Cup, then please do go ahead and fire away in the chat. But the first one obviously is Erling Haaland. And now the interesting thing was that when he was starting to break out, everyone could see how special he was, right? And the fact that he was playing with Norway, at that time, they felt like a nation that was constantly just falling short in qualifying. And there was that fear, is Erling Haaland going to be one of these players that for so long just is never going to make it to the World Cup? Because there are some sort of notable ones who never did get to play. I guess Ryan Giggs would be the biggest one. I don't know if I'm allowed to say his name anymore. But he's so gifted. And he's lifted Norway so well, but it's not just him. As you can see, 16 goals in Norway's 8 World Cup qualifiers. I guess that's not a bad ratio to have, is it? Fastest player to reach 50 international goals. That's not a bad record to have. All-time goals leader already at 25 years old. 55 goals, 6 assists for Norway. It's just unbelievable. They're heading to their first World Cup since 1998. And get this, at the 94 World Cup, Erling Haaland's father, Alf Inge, and Alexander Sorloth's father, Goran Sorloth, played with each other in that 1994 World Cup. Now their sons are at the 2026 World Cup together. Haaland scored at every game of Norway's World Cup qualifying campaign. Just unbelievable. Just the destruction of Moldova, that match where they were just like ruthless, beating them into the ground. Beating Italy twice, that second one especially, just making Italy look a little bit pitiful on their own soil to beat them like that. Now, I think that Haaland, 20 goals and 3 assists already in 19 appearances for Manchester City this season. He is coming into this, if he stays healthy, he's coming into this in unbelievable goal scoring form. But the thing that I like the most about him this season is how well-rounded he's become. You're seeing him link up better. You're seeing him demand the ball more by dropping to demand the ball, not just over the top, making runs, that kind of thing, being a target man. He really wants to combine with his teammates. He has a decent pass on him now. I mean, he got a couple of assists against Fulham, was it the other night, I think? A goal and 2 assists. He's become well-rounded and a leader. So him leading this Norway team, we talked about dark horses when it came to Morocco. Norway is absolutely a team that nobody will be relishing getting in their draw. Now, the next one, Lamine Yamal, obviously. Isn't it crazy how he's kind of snatched the spotlight? Now, we've looked at Erling Haaland, obviously, but the thought was after Cristiano Ronaldo and Lionel Messi, Erling Haaland and Kylian Mbappe are going to be the guys that are dominating for the next few years, right? For the next decade or so. And then a 16-year-old kid comes along from Spain and just snatches the spotlight away from them. 23 appearances, 6 goals, 12 assists. Spain's youngest goal scorer back in 2023. It's going to be his first World Cup, but if there was any player who you didn't have any worries about him being overwhelmed by the occasion, it's this guy. 18 years old. I mean, look at what he was doing when he was 16, turning 17 at the Euros. You had Adrien Rabiot, before France take on Spain, saying, Lamine Yamal, he's been good, but he's going to have to do a lot more, trying to get in this kid's head, thinking that he can rattle him. What does Kylian Mbappe, what does Lamine Yamal do? Cuts inside and just absolutely rips one into the top corner to win it for Spain and send them through to the semifinals. So he is not overwhelmed by the occasion in the slightest. It's been an interesting year for him as far as injuries go. There's people also, we're looking deep into his personal life saying, is he too distracted, that kind of thing. It's been an interesting year as far as injuries go, but I think that his performances have sort of spoken for themselves. He has that goal-scoring touch. He has that unbelievable ability to put the ball on a plate for his teammates. He can beat players on the dribble. He's one of those guys who you genuinely can see winning matches on his own. He's that X factor. Now, he does have a Pedri, he does have a Nico Williams, he does have Fermin. Oyarzabal is having a good moment in the attack this season as well. Rodri's a wild card in the midfield for them. We'll see how things sort of play out with him. But Lamine is the one that has that ability, like I was saying, to just, when Spain need it, win a match for them. Absolutely. Sapphire says, João Neves debut. Yes, Look, anyone who knows me, anyone in the chat who, I see you saying hello to you. Anyone who knows me knows that I'm a huge João Neves fan. João Neves is a brilliant player. And we saw when he was given an opportunity to take a free kick for Portugal, because Ronaldo was suspended, he can do that too. I mean, this guy as a midfielder scored a hat-trick, as did Bruno Fernandes, but João Neves, a very, very special player. He can do it all defensively, going forward, dominate midfields. That is a player that, yes, of course, I'm going to be very, very excited to see him at this World Cup. And I hope that he can just stay healthy. I really do. Now, the next one, as you can see on the list, is someone who people are going to be sick of hearing me speak about him. Estevão, the 18-year-old Brazilian for Chelsea, formerly of Palmeiras. The youngest Brazilian contract with Nike at just 10 years old. He has 5 goals in 11 appearances for Brazil. 2 of those goals he scored recently in friendlies against, I believe, Tunisia and Senegal, I believe. One of them a penalty. Just an unbelievable player. Now, speaking of sort of X factor, this thing that Lamine Yamal has, he has it. He has it. He's shown how important he can be to Chelsea. And clearly to Brazil as well. And I think that what's impressed me a lot is how he's adapted so well in going from Brazil, where it's warm, where he's comfortable, where he's with his family, to London, where it's cold, where it's a completely different culture and everything. And it hasn't slowed him down in the slightest. That's something that they always say with these good players is, are they going to be able to adapt to the culture change? He absolutely has. Thus far, right? Thus far. And he's seemingly going from strength to strength. Now, it makes sense that he doesn't really play with much fear, because he's played in a place like Brazil where it's just absolutely, the fans are mad. Playing for Palmeiras, a huge club, winning trophies. Now, Carlo Ancelotti believes in him, and rightfully so. I mean, he started the last 2 matches for Brazil, and he absolutely did incredibly well. And I think that not only is that right side sort of up for grabs, but I do think that the next kind of Brazilian idol, if that makes sense, is up for grabs as well. We've seen Vinicius have the opportunity to be the guy for Brazil. He didn't really take it. But now, Estevão, he has that sort of quality at just 18 years old, so we'll see how this trajectory sort of goes. If it continues, then he's going to be unbelievable. But Estevão sort of has that star power in him, or you believe that he can absolutely do it and become that next sort of in the line of kings, as they've called it. Pele, Romario, Ronaldo, Neymar. Will Estevão be that next guy? Now, in the chat, how are we doing, guys? Thank you so much for joining us. We do appreciate it. Mr. Joey889 says Norway does seem top heavy. Interested to see them against a true big team right now. Oh, Mr. Joey. So you're saying that Italy isn't a true big team. Oh, they will have difficulty hearing that. They'll have difficulty hearing that, I'm sure. look, can you claim to be a big team still if you go out in two group stages in a row in 2010 and 2014, and then you don't make two World Cups in a row? Maybe. I don't want to piss off the Italians too much, but maybe you're right, man. But look, you are right. They are a little bit top heavy, but they can play that sort of defensive kind of style as well. I think that they're very, very well managed by Solbakken. So we'll see. Now, players who are sort of seeking their first World Cup is another thing, because we have the debutants, and then we have guys who are sort of looking for their first World Cup who have maybe been around for a while. And the first one, of course, is Mr. Cristiano Ronaldo, who is coming into this World Cup. He will be 41 years old. He is 40 right now. But hey, look, that's not stopping him from scoring overhead kick bangers in Saudi Arabia. And if he does end up getting that World Cup, if you like greatest of all time debates, if you like GOAT debates, then you're gonna be in for a treat all over Twitter, I am sure, or X, sorry, because it will be unbearable if that's not your thing. The constant comparisons, it's gonna be crazy. But this is his 6th attempt at it. As you can see, 226 appearances, 143 goals, the most in men's international football, 46 assists. He has 8 goals and 2 assists at the World Cup. However, none of them have come in the knockout rounds of a World Cup, unfortunately for him. I would say that his best World Cup was probably 2018, based on that match against Spain alone, where he scored that hat trick, the unbelievable free kick, etc. 2006, he did play well. He didn't really have many goals and assists to speak for, but he did play well in that Portuguese side that made it all the way to 4th place in 2006. He is a 5 times Ballon d'Or winner. He will go down as one of the best players of all time, even without winning this World Cup. But still, if he does get that, it will be unbelievable. There is that question of, will he get benched by Roberto Martinez? It does not seem like it. That is something that Fernando Santos did at the previous World Cup for the matches against Switzerland, in which Portugal won 6-1, hat trick for Gonçalo Ramos, fantastic. Not the same kind of fortune in that match against Morocco. It didn't happen against Morocco, so we'll see. But I think that Roberto Martinez and Ronaldo are pretty buddy-buddy, so I think that he's going to start. And honestly, Ronaldo, the way he's been playing recently, I'm fine with it. I've gone on both sides of the should he start, should he not camp. Right now, I'm happy in having him start. I think that he'll do fine just there. Now, the next one, Harry Kane. This is a bit of a different one. This is his 3rd World Cup, I believe it is, 2018, 2022. Yeah, 3rd World Cup for him. And the last one ended on a sour note, of course, because he ended up missing that penalty against France. England lose 2-1, but 78 goals in 112 appearances for England, plus 19 assists. Already England's all-time leading goal scorer, 2018 World Cup Golden Boot winner with 6 goals when England made it all the way to that 3rd place playoff. Ended up losing to Belgium, but hey, they made it all the way to the semifinals. And, England has Harry Kane has sort of been the leader of this really good run of tournament form that England have had. The 2018 World Cup, they make it all the way to the semifinals, end up getting 4th. They go to Euro 2020, they make the final there. 2022 World Cup doesn't really play out for them because they end up having that exit against France in the quarterfinals, which won't happen now with the new rule change. But then the Euros again, they make the final against Spain. They end up losing again. So they've been just about there. They say that you need to lose one to win one. Well, they've lost 2 in the Euros, yes, that's a different story, but they've lost 2 there. Can this be this time when they actually get it over the line? And when you look at who they have as a coach in Thomas Tuchel and sort of the supporting cast that he has around him, there's a really good chance. This is sort of the highest I've ever been on England. Is it coming home? I'm not going to start singing that, but I think that they are absolutely, rightfully one of those top 4 teams that we need to take very seriously. They didn't even concede a single goal in qualifying, man. And Thomas Tuchel has shown that he knows how to get through a tournament. He's made 2 Champions League finals, one with PSG, they ended up losing to Bayern, one with Chelsea, they win against Manchester City. So Harry Kane, could he be getting it? We'll see. And finally, Neymar is this interesting one. Will he even make the squad? Will he be going to or coming to America, Canada, and Mexico? Because he's going through something interesting. He's made a very huge sacrifice recently. You know, he went back to Santos. He picked up another injury, but his team Santos are in a relegation battle. He said, I'm not going to get the surgery on my meniscus. I am going to play these final matches. And what has he gone and done? Scored 5 and 1 assist in 3 matches, helping them to survive. I don't know if it's final just yet. I'm not up to date on that. I do apologize. But just putting his potential final chance at a World Cup on the line. If he was to worsen his injury, that may spell the end of his hopes for going. But he is undoubtedly one of the best players that Brazil have ever had. 128 appearances, 79 goals, 59 assists. That is just unbelievable form that he has whenever he puts on that Brazil shirt. There was a long time where he was playing better for Brazil than he was for his club team. World Cup, he has 8 goals and 4 assists, 2016 Olympic gold medal, the 2011 FIFA Puskás Award. You remember that goal that he scored for Santos, just unreal. Now, he is someone that I sort of feel bad for in a sense because there's so much pressure on him. Because like I was saying with Estevão, sort of the idols that Brazil have had throughout the years, Pelé, Romario, Ronaldo, all these kinds of guys who ended up bringing a World Cup to Brazil. Neymar was thought to be that guy that was going to do that next for Brazil. But they haven't even been to a final since 2002 now. And Neymar has sort of been burdened with this generation of Brazilian players that a lot of people don't really see as talented as previous editions, because when you look at someone like look at the 2002 team, for example, who Ronaldo had behind him. He had Ronaldinho, he had Rivaldo, he had Cafu, he had Lucio, he had Roberto Carlos, Denilson, just an unbelievable squad, right? And you look at Neymar's, his attempts at the World Cup haven't really had that kind of talent behind him, to put it plainly. 23rd World Cup appearance. They're the only country to have ever qualified for every single one. They were eliminated in the quarterfinals in 2022. The captain is Casemiro for now, but if Neymar's there, he's probably going to be the captain. 5 World Cup titles, which of course they have the most. So just a lot of pressure on Brazil to make it far, because they'll equal their longest time of not making a final. Actually, no, this will be, if they don't make the final in this World Cup, it will be the longest time since they have done so. So a lot of pressure on Brazil right now. Let's see what's going on in the chat. Keys Dream says he's not prime, so I don't think so. Maybe bench. Mr. Joey says, will he even be in the team? Yeah, that's the big question. That's the really big question. It's going to be a tough run for him to get to that final. So we will see. Now, 2022, we had Argentina winning that World Cup. And they are going to be one of the favorites. I mean, obviously by the rankings, they are definitely considered one of the favorites. Final, just looking at that picture, thinking back on that final, unbelievable. You have that Mbappe hat trick. You know, imagine scoring a hat trick in a World Cup final and not winning the thing. You have Messi with a couple of goals. You have Dibu Martinez doing unbelievable things. I mean, Argentina were a Martinez away from losing that final when he stopped Randall Kolo Muani. They're undefeated in shootouts with Dibu Martinez as well. Tons of talent, tons and tons and tons of talent. They can actually do one better than Spain if they do win this World Cup, because of course Spain won the Euros, then the World Cup, then the Euros. Argentina have won a Copa America, a World Cup, a Copa America, World Cup? Maybe, we'll see. But this is their 19th World Cup appearance. The first CONMEBOL team to qualify, 14th consecutive appearance, and they have 3 World Cup titles. One of them delivered by Lionel Messi, which a lot of people were saying he needed to do that in order for a lot of people in Argentina to see him as above Maradona, who is held in such high regard for what he had done for Argentina in the past, sort of dragging them to a World Cup win in the 80s. So I'm really liking their chances, of course. They are unbelievably talented in the attack when you look at their attack, and they even have this younger generation coming through, like a Nico Paz of Como, who's doing really well, Franco Mastantuono as well, Julian Alvarez, if you want to consider him one of the younger generation guys. I think that's fair to say. All of these people that are coming through that can just add to this already solid and very experienced Argentina side that will be incredibly difficult to beat. One of the teams that will be just seen as just as much the favorites is France. Like Didier Deschamps, say what you will about how he has done. 2 World Cups in a row where he has made the final. There's a lot of people who sort of don't rate him very highly. They say that he's basically, getting by just on the talent that he has available to him. They think that he's a little bit too pragmatic sometimes, considering all of the attacking talent that they have. And look, they're right about the attacking talent, but clearly Didier Deschamps is doing something to make this team make finals 2 tournaments in a row, winning it in 2018, falling short in 2022, only by a shootout, right? So imagine sort of the narrative change that would have had around Didier Deschamps and just this team in general. It's their 17th World Cup. They lost that final, as we said, 8th consecutive appearance. Kylian Mbappe, the captain, coming in hot form. That was their 2nd World Cup title back in 2018. Kylian Mbappe, as this season feels like it is his Ballon d'Or mission, right? 94 appearances, 55 goals for France. Golden Boot winner in 2022 with 8 goals. Like I said, scoring a hat-trick in a World Cup final and not winning it, that's got to sting. But like I was saying, this feels like it's his mission Ballon d'Or this season. And if he doesn't do something with Real Madrid to sort of solidify his position as the best player in the world, then doing something at this World Cup is going to be absolutely integral. Whoever wins this, that's going to have a lot of sway on who takes that Ballon d'Or. Now, in the chat, Cynthia says, Ravon, I hope you've been well, bud. This pre-show is something. I mean, you can count on FIFA. Like I was saying, you got all sorts of acts coming into this pre-show for the draw. Count on FIFA to sort of juice it as much as they can. Mark over on YouTube says, Adrian, are you going to any matches in Toronto/Vancouver? I want to go to the matches in Toronto. We will see what happens. Vancouver also, that's where my family lives, so I would love to go see some matches in Vancouver. And I think that Vancouver has, I could be wrong, more matches maybe, or maybe higher profile. But look, Vancouver is where I want to go. I hope that I go. We'll see. We'll see how things play out. Getting tickets is difficult for this event. We'll see how things play out. Hopefully I can find my way. Who else do we have? As far as international managers are, Didi is okay, says Mr. Joey. Maybe it's time to step down. I'm sure after this, we'll see. Yes, getting those tickets are difficult. So yeah, now let's talk about the countries who have the most trophies and sort of the expectations that are surrounding them. As you can see, Brazil at the top, the only team with 5 stars, the only team that can say they've won it 5 times. Behind them is Germany and Italy. It's crazy that Italy has had such poor performances in the last few World Cups. I mean, not even making the last 2, but in 2010, going out in the group stage, in that group with New Zealand and Paraguay. And then in 2014, same deal. And then you have Argentina with 3 World Cups, France 2, Uruguay 2, England 1, Spain 1. Now, just getting to sort of some of the expectations. With Germany, it's interesting because they've had moments during this qualification cycle where they're even questioning if Julian Nagelsmann was going to be the guy, if he was going to last at this position, the coach of Germany. They are undoubtedly talented, for sure. There were question marks over the striker position for a really, really long time, but Nick Wiltemalde has sort of grabbed onto that position and started to take control of it. And so I think that they showed in the last window, well, they showed 2 faces in the last window, didn't they? They had that really, really poor match against Liechtenstein, Luxembourg. It always gets messed up in my head. I always flip the 2. One of those teams where they really labored to a win. But then in the match where they had to win, if they were to lose against Slovakia, they would have been in big trouble. They would have been in the playoff. they showed up and they scored a ton of goals. Now, Italy, I mean, we can't even speak to their expectations, really, because they still need to qualify for the thing, right? We know that they're playing against Northern Ireland, and then they'll take on either one of Wales and Bosnia and Herzegovina. You'll remember in Sweden, or in the matches against Sweden in the playoffs for the 2018 World Cup, they failed there. Against North Macedonia, I believe that match, I can picture it perfectly. It was in Sicily. They lose to North Macedonia. Unbelievable. And this Italian side is another one where there's a lot of people who are doubting Gattuso, and I get it. I totally get it. Gattuso was sort of someone that was kind of shoved into the spotlight for Italy because Luciano Spalletti ended up leaving, and some of their options they didn't go for whatever reason, whether it was going back to Roberto Mancini or what have you. They're saying maybe there's even talk of Marcello Lippi coming out of retirement. Crazy stuff. I understand all of that. I think that Italy has sort of shot themselves in the foot with how they've sort of managed their youth system for a long time. There is an opportunity to sort of address it back in 2011, 2012, when Roberto Baggio had this new plan to sort of revitalize the youth system and coaching methods and everything to get Italy back on their feet. And they didn't go for that plan. And now they're sort of reaping what they didn't sow. And they're having these difficulties where if you think of Italy and you think of elite attackers, wingers, strikers, guys who are at the top of their class in that position, Italy hasn't really had that for a bit now, and that's where they're sort of struggling. They have great ball-playing defenders, great attacking midfielders, but when it comes to wingers, strikers, guys who can sort of change games with a moment of magic, you don't really see that. You haven't seen that for a bit. So that's my my take on them. Now, I think we're getting close to draw time. Believe it or not. Can you believe it, guys? The draw is going to be happening very, very soon. So let's talk about how this is going to work. Let's go through. So it's going to be, again, 48 nations divided into 12 groups of 4, all pots allocated into groups A through L. They're going to do that for pot 1, pot 2, pot 3 is where it starts to get a little bit hairy because they have to start taking into consideration things such as countries from the same confederation not being able to go into the same group, of course, except for UEFA. UEFA will have a team or a nation in each group, and 4 groups will have 2 UEFA nations, okay? Now, nations in the same pot, of course, cannot be drawn into the same groups as each other, and the USA, Mexico, and Canada, they automatically qualify, and they are assigned to groups A, B, and D. Now, again, the top 4 teams, Spain, Argentina, France, and England are going to be separated so that they'll be in different quadrants of the draw, of the knockout rounds, essentially, so that they don't face each other until the soonest being the semifinals. That's only if they end up winning their groups, all of them. Otherwise, one of the ones who don't can slide into the other quadrant with one of those other big teams, and you will have that blockbuster match earlier in the tournament. What else? So yeah, as you can see, there's the UEFA playoffs that are still going to be figured out, which I'm really looking forward to, because those are some big teams. Like I was saying at the beginning of the stream, for anyone who's just joining us, those are some big teams that could be messing up the draw. This is where you get those potential groups of death, because all of the other pots 1, 2, and 3, are sorted by the FIFA ranking. But then you could get a Denmark, like I was saying, who's ranked 20th. They would be a pot 2 team for sure, because they're right in between Iran and Korea Republic. They could suddenly be the pot 4 team that you are drawing. Here you are expecting to get maybe a Curacao or some other debutant like that, maybe a Jordan or a Cabo Verde, where if you're one of the bigger nations, you're thinking, okay, maybe we have this not easy opponent, but lower ranked opponent that hopefully we can maximize points against. Then, here's Italy, here's Poland or Denmark or what have you. So that's where you get the spiciness of the draw, and those groups of death will start sort of cropping up. And of course, the Intercontinental playoff as well. We're going to get 2 teams from there. On the one side, you have DR Congo, who's already in a final. On the other side, you have Iraq, who's already in a final. Like I was saying at the beginning, this is sort of like our primer for the FIFA World Cup, because you have these different confederations that are going to be facing off against each other prior to the World Cup. Whereas with UEFA, it's just all one thing. Now, DR Congo will play against the winner of New Caledonia or Jamaica. Iraq, they will play against the winner of Bolivia or Suriname. So let's see. It's going to be fun, guys. It's going to be fun. We're going to get to this draw very shortly, I think. You know, I'm reluctant to promise you with that, because who knows, maybe FIFA will have another video, or they'll say, hey, here's another musical performance that we want to throw in here, or another Lifetime Achievement Award, whatever it may be. We are going to get to the draw in just a second here. So in the meantime, why don't we talk, guys? Why don't we talk? Let's see what's going on in the chat here. That Wales team is looking good, says Mr. Joey. And I can't believe Sweden stumbled into that playoff. Denmark as well. That match, Denmark and Scotland, was unbelievable. Fantastic, fantastic match between those two. Really, really enjoyed that. It was just sort of it was constantly changing who's in first and who's in second. Great goal from McTominay. All the goals that Scotland scored were great goals. McTominay, you had that, well, besides maybe the one from the corner kick, you had that goal from Kieran Tierney curling into the post there. Then you had that goal from halfway, you know, just a great, great, great match. Ultimately getting Scotland through automatically. Denmark straight into the playoffs. They fumbled it. I mean, they shouldn't have. Was it against Belarus where they should have got the win prior, and they ended up messing that up? So it was sort of in their own hands, and they ended up fumbling it big time. Big time. Bailey says, hey Adrian, what are your thoughts on how FIFA seeding, how affecting the landscape more than before? Yeah, I mean, okay. We'll get to that very soon, Bailey, because we are getting to the draw right now. Finally, this is not a joke. It is happening. We are actually going to see what's going to happen here. Starting with pot 1, of course, going from groups A through to L. So they'll draw the teams and see which group they will be placed in. Oh, I'm nervous. I'm hoping my countries get a good draw here, but we'll see. What are the teams to notice from the playoff teams that are to be added yet? So you have, if you're talking UEFA playoff, you have Poland, you have Denmark, you have Slovakia, Kosovo, Czechia, Ireland, Turkey, Ukraine, Sweden, Wales, Bosnia. Just a ton of teams that are yet to come from there. And then from the Intercontinental, you have, of course, DR Congo, Jamaica, New Caledonia, Iraq, Suriname, and Bolivia. So lots to be added still. Why is USA groups D and not C, says Mr. Joe. I believe it's so that they can ensure that all of the matches will be played at home. So right now they're just going through and placing the host nations in their various groups. And the reason why they do that is because they've sort of assigned where all the matches are going to be happening. And so to get that sort of, I guess, competitive advantage as all hosts have of playing at home, they have to ensure that they're playing in a group where all of those matches occur in that nation. So all of the matches that Mexico is going to be playing are going to be in Mexico. Canada, same thing. USA, same thing. Now to Group D, doing this, oh, this is rigged, says Notorious. It's they would call it not that. They would say that they're massaging things so that it is competitively even for everyone. But I mean, this is nothing new as far as the host nations being able to play in their own country, right? And it just so happens that there's 3 of them, which makes it a little bit a little bit weird that 3 nations will be determined to play in their one nation, but hey, that's the way that it goes when you have 3 nations here. Will they reveal the bracket today as well? Yeah, we'll be able to see that. I mean, tomorrow they'll be revealing the matches. There's going to be another, I don't know if they're doing another ceremony for it, but I know that tomorrow UEFA will be releasing the full schedule, basically. So yeah.
What happened? Where'd Scotland go?
Everyone's excited for the draw, as you can see. It hasn't occurred just yet. We got people ready to see where Scotland's going to end up. You'd think they want to make sure Group C has all American venues, says Mr. Joey. Yeah, we'll see. This is going to be, now we're at a commercial here. But Mexico, how are we feeling about Mexico? I know that they won the Gold Cup recently, although that was a tournament that the USA did not send their best team. Mexico did play well. You got to hand it to them there, but I think that a lot of Mexican national team supporters would tell you that they're not feeling overly confident with this team, that the program is a little bit in disarray, and that they are essentially that. In this World Cup, they don't have the biggest of expectations. Now, they are a team who has hosted the World Cup 3 times, and each time they hosted it, they made it the furthest they ever have. Now there's an extra match for them to play. I know that there's that classic, the curse of El Quinto Partido for Mexico, and that they can't make it past the 5th game, so or the 4th game. So we'll see. Now they have to make it past even further, even more games. So we will see. Then there's Canada, which I'm feeling pretty good about Canada. The fact that they were able to make it into the World Cup in 2022 themselves just is really, really huge, because we knew that Canada was going to make it into this 2026 World Cup as a team that just is one of the hosts, so they automatically make it. But to make it of their own volition, of their own merit in 2022, and to get that experience in a tournament prior is huge for them, because that is going to just make them all the better. And to have Jesse Marsch as a coach, he has improved them a lot. This is a much better Canada team, not just talent-wise, but tactically, experience-wise, everything. So Canada, I think, is a team that people won't love to have in their group, certainly not as much as in the last World Cup. They showed at Copa America just how good that they can be. Giving trouble to a team like Argentina at times and making it all the way to the semifinals of that tournament. So Canada, I think is a team that people will not want to face. And then, of course, there's the USA. USA already in Group D, as we know. They are a team that, look, Pochettino himself said that they're looking to win it, right? They're looking to win this tournament. We'll see how that goes. At the beginning of his tenure, it did not look like a possibility because it was difficult to see what his vision was. And there was a lot of questions of how seriously is he sort of taking this job, that kind of thing. But he's shown in the last 2 windows that he is absolutely taking this seriously, and he's done a very good job of kind of getting rid of the complacency within the team. There was a lot of players who knew that their spot was sort of nailed on in that team and that they would sort of have that starting position over and over and over. But he didn't even call up some of those players. He would leave them at home or in Europe, and he started bringing in a lot of guys from MLS. And that essentially, like I said, has sort of killed the complacency and has made it so that everyone will be fighting for their spot now, which is what you want at something like this. And everyone sort of buys into the vision. They're all behind him now. He figured out the formation, which was a big issue at one point. So USA is looking good coming into this. They're certainly trending in the right direction. It seems like he's figured out the players who will be there or thereabouts. There's a couple of fringe guys still. We'll see. USA's got the LeBron James of football, says Mr. Joey. Yes, of course. Mr. Christian Pulisic. Tuchel looks scary in the background. Yeah, Tuchel makes England look scary right now, doesn't he? We talked about that a little bit, but a guy who actually coached Christian Pulisic at one time, as you see the great stats that Pulisic has there on the screen. 32 goals and 19 assists, 22 World Cup. He had that one goal and those 2 assists. He got that great goal against Iran, very important for them to sort of leapfrog them there. Youngest ever U.S. men's national team captain. But yeah, Tuchel and England it was sort of, England loves to be their own worst enemies with the media. Like, why do we have a German coach? Why he probably doesn't care about the team as much as an English coach would, getting on Jude Bellingham all the time. But he has this team playing unbelievably well. Look, I think that the rest of the teams in their group didn't score more than 9 goals across 7 or 8, or across 8 matches it was. So was it top opposition? No, but still, to keep that concentration, to keep that determination, to not concede a single goal throughout that qualification campaign, great stuff. Great stuff from them. What if Messi wins it again? Adrian says Manny. Well, I think that will cement him as the, certainly, for a lot of people, the best Argentine player of all time. But let's look at pot 1 here, where you have Spain, Argentina, France, England, Brazil, Portugal, Netherlands, Belgium, and Germany. Now, I think if you were looking at the teams beyond sort of the host nations, which I think it's relatively fair to say are amongst the weakest in pot 1. I think the other one that you were looking at of this list, if you were a team in pot 2, 3, or 4 that you would want from pot 1, I think it would be Belgium. They haven't really impressed a lot in the last couple of tournaments, have they? Now, of course, they had 3rd place in 2018, but at the most recent Euros, they were fighting with their fans on the, like they were getting booed and whistled, and they just like walked off without thanking their fans. It's their 15th World Cup appearance, top of Group J in UEFA qualifiers. They do not have Domenico Tedesco anymore. They now have Rudy Garcia as their head coach, which is not somebody who sort of covered himself in glory with his past couple of jobs. Of course, getting sacked by Napoli. But hey, all the top coaches, even Thomas Tuchel, who we were just talking about, has been sacked, right? A lot of top coaches have been sacked. Sometimes things just don't work out, but Rudy Garcia wasn't the most inspiring hire for a lot of Belgian supporters. And this, of course, they had that golden generation, which is pretty much fully fizzled out at this point. They have a key player in Romelu Lukaku. Yes, they do. But the generation that's sort of following up behind them is not looking as good. You could look to a guy like Jeremy Doku, fantastic player. But I think, like I was saying, if you're in any of the other pots, I feel like Belgium is the team that you would want from pot 1. Now, who else do we have? We have Germany, who, as we were saying, not coming into this the strongest they've ever been. Not coming into this the strongest they've ever been. Definitely have attacking talent. We saw at the Euros, were they cheated out or not cheated out? Were they screwed over by the refereeing, who later did announce that they made a mistake and that Marc Cucurella's block with his hand away from his body should have been a penalty when it wasn't given in that game. Because at first they tried to spin it as, oh no, there's this new rule. We spoke with all the referees about blah, 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 blah. The handball rule is constantly changing depending on who the referee is, right? Then they admit that should have been a handball. Things could look very different. That could have been Germany going to that final against England. And then we wouldn't have all this talk about Spain, So they do absolutely have the talent in there. It did seem like the striker position was going to be an issue, but this, of any times that you would want to face Germany, let me say that, right now would be a time, if you're a top team, where you could see yourself beating them. Still waiting for the draw. My goodness. We have Lauryn Hill performing now. I didn't even know that she was on the on the cards for this one. They're just pulling surprises out everywhere. That's great. Good artist. So then you have a team like the Netherlands. And the Netherlands are a side that I do have a lot of belief in. I think that they were very unlucky to lose that match against Turkey in the Euro 2024 because they were so dominant. The goalkeeper just having the most unbelievable performance of his life. And I thought that the Netherlands were starting to play pretty well in that tournament and were really starting to get up and running. Daniel Malin was playing well. Cody Gakpo tends to show up in every single tournament, you know, it's big tournament Gakpo that he tends to show up. Memphis Depay, I think he's the all-time top scorer for the Netherlands now, a guy who's just balling out in Brazil, enjoying life. So I think that this team under Ronald Koeman is playing pretty well. And then you look at their midfield with guys like Tijani Reinders, De Jong, Urian Timber in the defense. Matthijs de Ligt, I think he missed a call-up or two, but they have good defenders. Virgil van Dijk, the big man, a lot of talk around him right now. Is he kind of regressing a little bit? It's been a tough season for all of Liverpool, so maybe we can't judge him too harshly, especially with the pedigree that he's kind of earned, right? But that's one of the things that people are looking to as far as the Netherlands, and will the defense be a problem for them? We will see. How's it going, chat? What are we doing? How are we doing? Lauren's hat is ridiculous. She's an artist, you know? She's an artist. What's the point of this draw? Yeah, with all the predetermined stuff, you know? If we even get to a draw, maybe there isn't a draw today. Who knows? I don't know. At this point, you're making me doubt it, that the draw is even going to happen. Please, we're an hour in. Mexico scares me going into this World Cup. Do you say that, TTV Chungus, do you say that as a Mexico supporter, or do you say that as someone who could potentially face Mexico? Because the very different things. Always Rio says Mexico will do great, just watch, they perform when it matters. That is true. And also, like I was saying, the fact that they are playing at home, their best performances in World Cups have been when they have hosted them. The fact that they are playing at home, you cannot count them out. These, you know, that can be enough to sort of propel them forward. They already have fantastic support no matter where they go. So imagine playing at home where they're comfortable. It's going to be very intimidating for these teams that are not used to that kind of atmosphere. You know, it's very different, especially for the European sides. It's very different playing in Europe versus coming over for some CONCACAF, you know? Coming over for a little CONMEBOL. It's very, very different sort of situation than playing where it's comfy cozy at home in Europe. So we'll see. That could be something to look forward to. Let's look at some of these other Pot 1 teams while we're here waiting. We'll see how many more performances we have, what else they have up their sleeve. Let's talk a little bit about England. We did talk about them a little bit, and the fact that they did so well in their qualifying campaign. 8 matches, they won every single one, didn't concede a goal, and they have so much talent in this team. Not just in the attack when you have like a Harry Kane, but look at that midfield of a Declan Rice. You could bring Morton into the conversation. You have who's the other one I was just thinking of? I was going to say Reece James, but that's just because he's sort of changed how he's been playing recently at Chelsea, hasn't he? Formerly in defense, a guy who can kind of play anywhere across the park, now playing in the midfield as well. Jude Bellingham, of course. Look at this. Actually sad to see the World Cup draw like this. Yeah, I mean, we knew it was going to be interesting, to say the least. We knew it was going to be interesting. I'm not really surprised. I was looking back on some of my old analytics when I did this 4 years ago for the 2022 World Cup, and I saw that they did the draw at the 40-minute mark. We are at, an hour 10 into this now? It's going to be a long one. Yeah, and Chu, as you're saying, Eze is in fantastic form as well for England. So England, Madueke has also done well. You even have someone like Harvey Barnes at Newcastle, a guy who isn't even guaranteed to get into the squad, playing super well. Anthony Gordon, their defense is looking very strong. So England is absolutely a team that I do not want to see. If I'm, looking at it through Canadian or US or Mexican glasses, I do not want to see that name in my group with me at all. England, in the past, I've thought that they've been maybe a little bit fortunate to get some of their paths to the World Cup finals, like in 2018. But the draw is the draw. You can only beat who's in front of you, and they've done that. Now I am genuinely backing England to do something in this World Cup. It's been 84 years, Jogo Bonito. By the way, Jogo Bonito campaign, unbelievable. Yeah, it's, we'll see. I really thought that they would do things a little bit quicker, but they're drawing it out. They're drawing it out. Hey, tell them wrap this concert up, says John Wick. Please, please. Does Group of Death mean anything with the expansion, says Sports Watcher? I think so. There's still a possibility that you can get some pretty crazy groups depending on how things play out. You could get, look, like a Spain, if we could bring up all of the pots so I don't have to make any mistakes here, but you could still get like a Spain, and then the pot 4 team, like I was saying, can be a very, very difficult one where you have either a Denmark or an Italy coming out of it. And then in pot 3, although you can't have 2 Europeans, so let's say Argentina as our example, then you have Denmark, then you could have whoever else. I don't have the pots in front of me, so I can't really say, but we'll see as we get to it. We'll show you. The Group of Death will exist. How strong will it be? Will it be as strong as previous ones that we've seen? Maybe not. But we'll see, depending on how the playoffs go with the UEFA and the Intercontinental. Spicy Sponge says draw won't start till tomorrow. Yeah, I'll be here for 24 hours. This is going to be a 24-hour stream. Just a bottle of water for me, and I'll be good. So feel free to join me. I'll be here for the full 24 hours until they do the draw. Mike, how you doing? Says, I admittedly didn't know Canada changed PMs. We did. And he's been dating Katy Perry, so there you go. Also changed coaches, Jesse Marsh. No more Herdman. Herdman's out after Drone Gate and everything. He's down in New Zealand again, I believe. I'm sick of seeing Johnny's face already, says HK Mark. Out of context, footy. That's how everyone feels right now, waiting for this draw to just begin. Please, put us out of our misery. Put us out of our misery. Tell Baldy to do the draw. Come on, man. We'll get there. I'm hanging in, Spicy Sponge. I'm hanging in. France. France is another team. If we still, let's move to pot 2. I think that pot 2, we've looked at these pot 1 teams. These are all the teams that everyone's super familiar with. Let's look at pot 2 for a bit. Because that's where you can get a lot of surprises. Although there is a pot 3 team that I see as sort of my can be a draw ruiner for people. But pot 2 there, now that we have them all up, let's try. Seeing the pots on the screen right now, since FIFA doesn't want to do the draw, we can do the draw in the chat. Go ahead and make your best Group of Death. I want to see it. If they're not going to do the draw, we will. But here, let me go with Argentina. Let me go with Morocco. Let me hit Norway. And I'll throw Denmark in there too. What about that? Argentina, Morocco, Norway, Denmark. Saying that Denmark's going to make it through. We'll see if they end up in the end, but that's one. What else could you do? You could do England, Japan. Let's throw... I'm not going to pick Norway again because that would just be... I'm not going to lean on them for every single one. Let's throw Egypt in there and Ghana. Maybe not a Group of Death. I don't know. Maybe there's something to it. What you were saying previously, that there's not going to be a Group of Death. I don't know. Now I'm starting to doubt it. It's going to get difficult because of the 2 UEFA limitation. Bro could have made a Roots of the Rivalry video in this time. Yeah, I could. Yeah, for sure. Okay, we're still waiting. We're still waiting. But some of these Pot 2 teams, Croatia is one of those teams that you simply cannot sleep on. I have made that mistake before. Look, at the 2022 World Cup, I was saying, okay, this is when they're going to go out. They go through. Okay, this is when they're going to go out. They go through again. Look, they're a team that you never can count out. They are getting a little bit older. They sort of wheel out their best performances in these tournaments. They made the semifinals 2 tournaments in a row. Made the final in 2018. Croatia, definitely difficult. Morocco, as we were saying earlier, there's some people accusing them of not really playing the most difficult matches in qualifying. Maybe there's something to that. But actually, I forgot to mention this. We have the African Cup of Nations coming up this month. So we'll get a good look at a lot of these African teams and just sort of what kind of shape they're in heading into the World Cup. Because what about a failure? What about a massive failure from one of these teams? Then suddenly the Football Federation of that nation is going to be thinking, do we change our manager? Do we stick with him? We'll see. It could cause some kind of chaotic moments out there. We'll make it to 2026 before this thing is over. Yeah, I mean, the World Cup's going to start before the draw is done. John Wick says, should have just had Adrian do the draw. I would have got it done quick. I know people just want to see the draw. There would be no musical performances. I'm not as funny as Kevin Hart. I'm not as talented as Heidi Klum. I can't sing like Lauryn Hill, but I'd get that draw done quickly. Like, don't you worry. Manny 2025 says, a CONCACAF team is going to shock the world. Mark my words. Manny, I ask you this. Of the CONCACAF teams, which one do you think is going to go the furthest? Canada, Mexico, United States? Will it be, who else do we have? Where are they? Panama? Curacao? Haiti? Will it be one of the teams making it in from the Intercontinental Playoff? A Jamaica or a Suriname, perhaps? Man, if Curacao ends up doing something, it would be unbelievable. Haiti, their first World Cup since 1974, if they end up doing something, would just be, I mean, ultimately heartwarming. This is a team that hasn't been able to play at home for 4 years due to political unrest. So to see Haiti at this World Cup after playing all of their qualifying matches in different areas, I mean, they were playing their final one in Curacao, I believe it was, is where they played their final qualifying match. If they were to make some sort of little run, this would be just a beautiful thing to see. A beautiful thing to see. As you can see, their second World Cup appearance, topped Group C of CONCACAF qualifying. They beat Nicaragua 2-0 in that final match in Curacao. First appearance since the 70s. A key player is Dukins Nazon as well. Placide, their goalkeeper. Older fella playing in France. Yeah, they're a tricky team. They're a tricky team. We'll see. Spicy Sponge says, at this point, it's a comedy show. Colorado says, people are sleeping on Colombia in this. And I mean, I guess it depends on who you ask, but I hear a lot of people praising Colombia for how good they have been. It's looking like it's James Rodriguez's last tournament. We saw him very emotional during the final qualifying match in Colombia. He's a guy who just constantly shows up, doesn't he, when it's Colombia. He can be missing, playing in Qatar, whatever, showing up and playing in Mexico, in Greece, whatever, you know, lose track of him for a while. Then he pops up in a Colombia jersey and he ends up winning the golden ball at the Copa America 2024. I believe he got 6 assists and 1 goal, something like that. Crazy to see him pulling those kinds of performances out. Then you have Luis Diaz as well. You have an incredibly talented squad in Colombia. They had an excellent qualifying campaign. So they're one of those teams where they won't be considered a top contender, you know, with some of the names in pot 1. But when we talk about strong dark horse, they can absolutely do something. That's their 7th World Cup. They qualified in September by beating Bolivia, who still have a chance to make it in, as you'll remember. Their captain, James Rodriguez, who we just waxed lyrical about. Best finish was the quarterfinals. I believe that was in 2014 when they made it to the quarterfinals. James Rodriguez, that was sort of his announcement of who he was and how good he was on the world stage, and that ultimately earned him that move to Real Madrid that summer as well. Did it work out for him in the end? He had a good season there or two. But yeah, Colombia is absolutely a team that you have to watch out for. Why are they playing a major tournament 6 months before the biggest tournament? Yeah, I mean, that's the way that they do it for the Africa Cup of Nations, as Colorado was talking about. It always just falls on that kind of time frame. The last time they had it was in 2023. So every other time it's going to be in the way of a World Cup. But it does, for us, provide us, like I was saying, some interesting is insight as far as what these African teams are looking like coming into this. And because you'll see them against the qualifying teams, they weren't always playing against the best opposition, right? Which is what we were saying about Morocco. But then in this tournament, the best teams of Africa, let's see how they do up against that better opposition. Let's see if they were maybe had a lucky draw for their qualifying groups. Let's see. Adrian, is there any water left in that? Yeah, look, it's I'm gonna be empty by the time they even get to the draw. But no, I'll be fine. I'm taken care of here. Don't you worry. Why is Shaq there? That's a question that people in the office have been asking. Why are we going to get Shaquille O'Neal's input here? It's that classic Chris Rock thing of, we need to speak to Ja Rule. What does Ja Rule think of this? You know, it's the same sort of vibes with Shaquille O'Neal at a World Cup draw. But hey, it's the world game. It's a game for everybody. And Asi Patak over on X saying the World Cup draw should have begun 30 minutes ago. I agree. Maybe they're having some technical difficulties with the drawing balls or something. I don't know. You never know what's going to happen. Or they just are going to go for the full 2 hours or something. Maybe one of the ball openers had an injury. We'll see. We think it's getting closer. We've been saying that though, haven't we? But yeah, this is what you get when it's a FIFA thing like this. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you, I appreciate that. See, I told you I'm well taken care of here. I've told you. Yeah, like we said, this is what you come to expect with the recent sort of FIFA draws. We saw it in Qatar. In Qatar, it felt like it was long, but here, it's they're going for it. You know, this is a feature-length draw now. It's a feature-length draw at this point. Why are they playing? Oh, I already read that one. Germany and Portugal going to be in the same group, says Mike. Oh, man. Previously, I would say that would be spell doom for Portugal, but they actually beat Germany recently, which is something that never, ever happens. Germany and Portugal in the same group would be... Wait, aren't they both in pot one? I don't think that can happen, Mike. I think you tried to trick me there. Whew, that was a close one. Yeah, okay. You almost had me, Mike. You almost had me. Can you talk about Uzbekistan? I'm not familiar with them, says Colorado. So I will be completely honest with you. They are a team that sort of slipped through my fingers, and even I need to do a lot of reading up on them. I know that their coach had to resign after qualification because of, I believe it was health issues. And now they have Cannavaro, I think. I could be wrong on that, as their coach. But he is... Yeah, he is the coach of Uzbekistan as of 2025. Whew, second guessing myself there. So yeah, their coach who got them to the World Cup ended up having to resign. Now Fabio Cannavaro is there. There are a lot of questions about, is Fabio Cannavaro the right choice? Because he hasn't exactly had the greatest coaching career. You saw him go over to China for a bit. Hasn't really been seen as a very, very good coach. did they make the right choice? What was this choice based upon? Was the sort of question there. So Colorado, I'm with you. I need to read up on Uzbekistan myself, but they have Eldar Shomurodov. They have Kustanov, of course, as well. So they do have some talent that I need to study on. Mr. Joey asking, why did I take my lunch at 12? I feel for you, man. I feel for you. This is throwing everyone off. You know, had we known, we could have just started at 1 p.m. and we would have been good. We would have seen everything. We would have even had a lot of time to speak about other things, about the favorites and that kind of thing. But look, ultimately, we are very appreciative of everyone who has sat through this with us. We can suffer together. You know, we're in this together. We will get there eventually. I believe that we will get to this draw at some point. So thank you once again for everyone who's tuning in, whether you're on YouTube, whether you're in the app, for dropping your comments and your questions in the chat. Thank you. Please do continue. You're keeping us going here. Yeah, questions, comments, anything. Spain, why don't we talk about Spain a little bit? Because why not? I mean, we got time. So Spain come into this, as I said, they could have their sort of record snatched from them, as far as, you know, going and winning 3 major tournaments in a row, doing the Euro, doing the World Cup, and then the Euro again. Argentina could take that from them, but they do come in looking like a very, very, very strong contender. Now, there is some weirdness going on with them when it comes to Lamine Yamal and his sort of strained relationship between Barcelona and the Spanish FA, Luis de la Fuente, the coach of Spain, and Barcelona, getting called up when he was injured, and he didn't tell him that he was injured, and Barcelona not wanting him to get called up, and it's just like a lot of, I don't know if it's broken telephone or just like not working telephone at all, like zero communication. Spooks13, we see your comment. What's up, man? So Spain, regardless, we went through some of the other names that they have. Fermin Lopez, Oyarzabal, Pedri. We'll see what Gavi is looking like at that point when the World Cup comes around. All these different players, this like spine that is so talented. Yeah, I mean, at least, look, guys, later if you can't sleep, if you are suffering from insomnia, just throw this on. Not me. Hopefully not me, but the actual World Cup draw itself. Just throw that on, and it will help you with that insomnia. But yes, Spain, definitely a team that coming in hot. I mean, Germans will certainly say that they're lucky to have made it to that final against England after that handball that we went over by Marc Cucurella. But oh my God, it looks like the draw is actually going to happen. But Spain is still a team that, whether it was lucky or not, they are so talented. They play with a distinct style, which is kind of rare at times. Here we go, drawing Brazil. Brazil, who have a new coach in Carlo Ancelotti. Where will they end up? Now, of course, guys, remember, you don't need me to tell you this at all, but Brazil and all of these pot 1 teams will be divided amongst the groups, even though Mike in the chat tried to trip me up saying Germany and Portugal are in the same group. Can't happen. They're all pot 1. So Brazil is in Group C. Beautiful, beautiful. Brazil in Group C. Now, of course, after pot 1, we're going with Germany next. Now we're moving. After pot 1, we will go to pot 2, and that's where we will start to see people getting into the same groups. We'll start to see the sort of outlook build. Germany is getting placed in Group E. Okay. Germany in Group E, who, as we were saying, cannot be slept on. Of course, they will have Jamal Musiala back at that point. He should be back soon-ish, I believe, in January or so, which is huge for them. Next is Netherlands. Where are Netherlands going to end up? Okay, Williams saying, cars are flying now. That's how long this draw is taken. Netherlands into Group F. Just going from A through L. Just waiting on which team comes up next. So Belgium. Belgium, who I said personally, beyond the host countries, maybe the team that you want out of pot one if you're in the other pots. We'll see. But still, in saying that, they have the quality, right? They do still have quality. An older Kevin De Bruyne, an older Romelu Lukaku, some younger guys like Doku. I almost said Hans van Aken when I meant Charles de Ketelare. Group H is where Spain will be. So Spain will be in Group H. Oh, isn't it nice? Isn't it nice to see teams get placed in groups at a group draw? Isn't that great to see finally? I mean, we were made to wait, but here we go. Now we're moving. Argentina up next. So those two teams, this is where sort of the strategic placement of the top four teams is. So Argentina will be moving in next after we just had Spain get placed into Group H. And there you have it. Argentina is in Group J. Brady just drew the country of his ex-wife. Argentina in Group J. Lionel Messi and the boys, the defending champions. They do not have an Angel Di Maria this time, though, which I think is huge. Angel Di Maria has been massive in finals for them. He scored in one Copa America final, World Cup, Olympic final. I mean, he's just been unbelievable for them. Next up, France in Group I. France in Group I. And Trossard as well. Crypto dude saying Trossard as well when I'm speaking about Belgium. I saw your comment earlier. I think it was you earlier when I was mentioning the players that play for Belgium. Trossard, yes, quality player. Portugal, they will be in Group K. And Portugal, remember, is not one of those top-ranked teams. Those top-ranked teams in this are Spain, Argentina, France, and England. Portugal is not one of them, so they are one of the teams where there is no restrictions on which quadrant they can be placed in when we get to the knockout rounds. And then that final team, don't even need to draw it, but they will, of course, is England going into Group L. Is that backwards? Yes, L. Was that the right way? I don't know. Now I'm second guessing myself. I always do that with the letter L. Strange brain. Okay, so there we have it. All of the pot one teams have been placed. Mexico, A. Group B, Canada. Brazil, C. Group D, USA. Group E, Germany. Group F, Netherlands. Group G, Belgium. Group H, España. We got France in Group I. Argentina in Group J. Group K has Portugal. And Group L has England. Well. Now we will move on to pot two. I wonder if they will do another kind of performance type thing for pot two. They'll certainly introduce the teams. They usually have like a little video kind of thing to introduce the teams, but they're just chatting away, chatting, and then we will see where some of these teams will get placed. And of course, in pot two, we have Croatia, Morocco, Colombia, Uruguay, Switzerland, Japan, Senegal, Iran, Korea Republic, Ecuador, Austria, and Australia. Where is Italy? Ask Kishore, or Kishora. Italy are one of the playoff teams. I don't know if you're asking that sarcastically to get a dig in on the Italians. You wouldn't do that, right? But they are one of the playoff teams, so we don't even know if they're going to make it. We don't know. So they will be, you'll see when they do the draw, when we get all the way through it, they're going to have UEFA Playoff A, UEFA Playoff B, that kind of thing. Those are the teams that are still yet to make their way into the tournament. Yaya says, let's go. I don't know if that's like a triumphant let's go or a let's get going to this draw. Both could be applied. Colorado says Brazil and MA. Yeah, I guess now we can see where some of these teams are going to be playing. which is going to be really fun. Now people are actually going to start asking questions asking questions, certainly maybe asking questions, but sort of looking into tickets more seriously. There's a lot of people that have bought tickets that they have no idea what they're going to be seeing. So we'll now be able to see where you can actually buy tickets to go and see the teams that you want to see. So that will be fun. Now so pot 2 is coming up next. I definitely want to go and see a game. I would love to be in Toronto for the Canadian opener on that second day, because Mexico plays the opener, and then the next day Canada and the US play, and then the normal tournament sort of begins after that. Canada and USA don't play each other, obviously. We will know who they are playing after this draw in those opening matches, because the schedule will be available essentially. We'll know the pot teams that they'll be playing. Now they're going to start part 2, which is pot 2. Jason Queros, seeing you from Costa Rica. We are out, dog. Good job, bro. We appreciate it. Hey, thank you, man. Thank you. We appreciate you guys for all showing up, like I was saying earlier. Thank you so much for keeping us company during this. It would have been a very lonely stream, me just sitting here waiting around for Mr. Johnny Infantino to move things along. But here we go. It looks like part 2, which is pot 2, is going to begin now. Shaq taking the reins this time. HK Mark says, I have a ticket to the June 26th game in Toronto. I'm anxious to know what the teams are. Yeah, it's gonna be really exciting for all those people who have tickets, and a big scramble for the rest. So here we go. Korea Republic have been drawn into Group A. Korea Republic are in Group A. So Mexico and Korea Republic. Did they not face each other in the 2018 World Cup? I believe they shared a group there, did they not? Sometimes my brain no work, but I believe they did. Yeah, with Germany as well. Group B, Switzerland. Okay, so Canada and Switzerland. Switzerland is one of those teams that you do not want to draw. They are not an easy team to play at all. So, now, who will be next? This, like I said, this is getting exciting, guys. This is getting exciting. Morocco. Morocco now. They will be in... Cesar Madero saying we are cooked. Joey saying that Switzerland isn't too bad for Canada. Yeah, it can always be worse. It can always be worse, but Switzerland is not an easy side. I do not take them lightly. Morocco are in Group C with Brazil. Oh, Morocco, they have a chance to claim another big scalp. Let's see if they can do it. Let's see if they can do it. They showed up last time. Let's see. Next up, I hear excitement in the office. There is excitement in the office here, so it must be Australia. Canada versus Switzerland is in Vancouver. Interesting. So Australia is drawn next. Good qualification campaign for them. They, of course, went out against Argentina in the previous World Cup, and they will be with the USA. If you're USA, you're happy with that, right? I think that you're very happy with that draw. That is a very competitive match for you, a winnable match as well. So yeah, they will be very, very happy with that. Canada with Switzerland, difficult. I mean, no draw was going to be easy, right? No draw was going to be easy. Mexico and Korea, very competitive. Brazil, Morocco, we'll have to see. One of Brazil's worst qualification campaigns. They come through in 5th in CONMEBOL for this World Cup, so that is not up to their own standards. As I was saying with Germany, if there was any time where you would relish playing against Brazil, it would be now, as we have Ecuador going into the same group as Germany, Ecuador coming into this very, very hot. Excellent, excellent team. They did very well in their qualifying. Very defensive. They're going to make a game not enjoyable for you in the slightest, but it is effective. It has been working for them. Now Japan has been drawn up against the Netherlands in Group F. That's another really good one. Japan really impressed people at the previous World Cup. Very strong side. They're just a program that's been getting better and better and better all the time. So Japan, Netherlands, we like that. Iran has been drawn next. And Iran will be in Group G, I believe. Yes, Group G. Mexico always with Korea, yep. Good friends, good friends. It's funny how that kind of works out. You see that in Champions League as well. Any sort of competition, these teams that end up being in the same groups consistently, like end up kind of knowing each other. So Mexico and Korea. Correct me if I'm wrong, I believe they played a friendly recently as well. Uruguay, another team that's coming in clearly talented, but you got to wonder if Marcelo Bielsa is even going to be the coach anymore when that World Cup comes around, because it looks like things are just not working out between him and the players. So we'll see if he is even there. But like I was saying, clearly a very talented side. When they play well, they're going to be in Group H with Spain. So that's a hot one. That should be a good competitive match. A guy like Fede Valverde playing against the country that he lives in, you know, of course, playing for Real Madrid. Uruguay, definitely a strong side. I'm curious to see if Darwin Nunez will be involved after he's gone to Saudi Arabia and not popped off, to say the least. Senegal in the same group as France. That's going to be fun to see. Senegal, very, very strong side. You still have Sadio Mane playing. You still have, guys like that. A very, very talented side. Next up in Group J, who will be with Argentina? It's looking like Austria. Austria to move into Group J with Argentina. Oh, and the final two remaining sides, Colombia and Croatia. So Portugal and England getting difficult teams. Now, of course, people have been talking about, and I even spoke about in this, that Croatia maybe isn't the same team as they were in the past two World Cups. But again, I mean, sleep on them at your own peril, you know? Discount them at your own peril. But Colombia, not a team that you want. Colombia and Portugal is going to be a very, very interesting one. Oh my goodness. That's one where if I'm Portugal, I am worried. Luis Diaz is just looking unbelievable these days at Bayern Munich. I'm sure you saw the goal that he scored where he basically fell and then got up and managed to score somehow and beat the player. So Croatia will be in with England. Ooh, a little rematch. A little bit of a rematch as far as, Croatia beating England previously at the 2018 World Cup in the semifinals. So a rematch there. So that group will not have any more UEFA teams in it. So none of the playoff teams from the UEFA side of things, at least, will be in Group L. We know that. So guys, from what you have seen so far, which do you think would be a group of death? Portugal and Colombia, Group K, is looking like it could be that group right now. It really is looking like it. Although, I mean, some people will point to a Germany, Ecuador. Ecuador is a very strong side as well. Netherlands, Japan, that's not an easy group. But I'm thinking that sometimes the most obvious thing is the right answer. I think that Group K of Portugal versus Colombia is probably going to be that group of death. We'll see. You know, maybe those two teams will be lucky as far as the teams that they get from Pot 3 and Pot 4. People are also saying Group C, which of course, Morocco, we cannot sleep on them either. Like I was saying, I'm really interested to see how they do in this upcoming AFCON. They are hosting it. as well, so that plays into things also. But we'll get to see sort of what Morocco is made of playing against the top sides in Africa. But Group C, undoubtedly, Morocco and Brazil is a tasty, tasty matchup. People are liking K, L, and H, Spain and Uruguay. The only reason why I didn't jump to Spain and Uruguay, because that's obviously a very good matchup, is just because of the sort of shape that Uruguay is in this moment. Like Bobby Saints just said, if they can figure it out, if they can either get on side with Bielsa, or if their federation makes a tough decision and ends up sacking him now and going with someone else in the lead up to the World Cup. A little bit unorthodox. It's not the most ideal situation, of course, but we've seen it work with a team like Morocco, right? Regragui came in that final year, and he ended up having that fantastic run with Morocco all the way to the semifinals, a history-making run where they became the first African nation to do so. So now we're going to get to pot 3, and Norway, Panama, Egypt, Algeria, Scotland, Paraguay, Tunisia, Cote d'Ivoire, Uzbekistan, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and South Africa. Happy to see South Africa back in there. It's the first time they've qualified, I believe, since 2002, but they of course hosted in 2010. Tunisia, one of the teams that also you cannot take lightly. They are a team that went through the entirety of their qualification cycle without conceding a goal. They were the first team to ever do that until England came along and sort of matched it by also going through the entire qualification without conceding a goal. Scotland, not an easy side. Not an easy side at all. We spoke earlier about what they did to Denmark, sending them to the playoffs at their expense. Scott McTominay, the best player in Serie A, confirmed by his peers as well. They went through the entire lineup of the best 11 of Serie A, and all of them chose Scott McTominay to be that guy. So Scott McTominay and Scotland, you definitely don't want them in your group. Paraguay, coming into this off of a great qualification campaign. They looked really, really good. Saudi Arabia, as Bailey has said, you don't want them. South Africa now, as we get to the draw, is going into Group A. So Mexico, Korea, South Africa. To me, this is a very balanced group. I think all of these nations are sort of looking around the room and saying, we can get out of this group. We can do this, guys. You know, I think all of these teams can get out of this. So that's a very, very, very balanced one. Very balanced. Qatar is next. Qatar going into Group B, I believe. And again, very, very balanced. Canada will be happy with what they are seeing so far, because no, it's not easy, but it is winnable for them. Joe says that Mexico has it easy so far. I don't know. South Africa's pretty good, as are South Korea. You can't sleep on them either. Paraguay, they, I think, will have to jump into Group D because they cannot go into Group C. Because Brazil is already there, another CONMEBOL team. So yes, they are jumping into Group D. So USA, Australia, Paraguay. USA just beat Paraguay in a friendly, but like I was saying, they are a very well-coached team. They have been doing very well so far in qualification. So Paraguay, definitely going to be a difficult side to take on. And, you know, at a World Cup where it means more, they're going to play a little bit better. Granted, USA at home. So we'll see. So we still have a big hitter in Norway to be sorted out as far as the teams here. Cote d'Ivoire, okay. Cote d'Ivoire, I believe they cannot go in Group C either, so they will go into Group E. Good team, just won the previous Africa Cup of Nations in 2023. Funny story there, they sacked their coach mid-tournament and ended up winning the thing. So, hey, it's not too late for Uruguay, right? You know, they sacked a coach, Cote d'Ivoire, in the tournament. Uruguay, you can do it before the tournament and still do well, if they choose to do so. Ivory Coast, sorry. Cote d'Ivoire, Ivory Coast. Now, still waiting on a Group C team. Tunisia now. They still cannot go in Group C, so they will be going into Group F, I believe. Tunisia, as we were saying, didn't concede a single goal throughout that qualification campaign. Not exactly flashy when it comes to scoring goals, but they defend extremely well, so they're going to be in the same group as Netherlands and Japan. Just looking at Group E, that's looking strong, isn't it? Germany, Cote d'Ivoire, or Ivory Coast, and Ecuador. Tunisia, Japan, Netherlands. Difficult games there as well. Egypt, again, cannot go into Group C. Explanation on Group C, Gonzalo, is that so a lot of the teams that they're drawing have been African teams or CONMEBOL teams. And since we already have an African team and a CONMEBOL team in Group C, none of these guys could go into that group. So they've just been sort of moving down the line, which is why you see Egypt going into Group G. So we're waiting on a non-CONMEBOL, non-CAF African team to go into Group C. And there it is, Scotland. Scotland, a UEFA side. People are saying Norway not Group C, Norway not Group C. A lot of people wanting to avoid Norway, and they have. But Scotland's not easy either, as we were sort of going over. This Scottish side is not easy either. So they will be going into Group C alongside Brazil and Morocco. That's looking like a nice group also. Okay, maybe I'm a believer in this group of death again. Maybe I'm a believer. Definitely potential for that in a few of these groups. Group K I'm looking at is potential as well. Now, Saudi Arabia, they will be going into Group H. Saudi Arabia, who provided some great moments at the previous World Cup, that win over Argentina, and of course, that last-minute winner from El Dasadi in another match. Just, they do have the players to cause an upset, don't they? Coached by Hervé Renard again. He's back. Excuse me. Who is next? Algeria. Algeria, I believe going into Group J it would be, because Senegal is already in Group I. Yeah, because otherwise France versus Algeria would have been an explosive match, wouldn't it? So Algeria straight into Group J. Group F is very underrated, says Sigma Boo. Group J for Algeria. So we still need to find one for Group I to go alongside France and Senegal. I do not envy anyone who is in that group. That is going to be a very difficult draw. Uzbekistan, they can go. So it's looking like Uzbekistan and Fabio Cannavaro will be heading in there. Unenviable task. You don't want to be in that same group as France. But you got to back yourself to be able to get a point or so against Senegal, and we'll see. Oh, Uzbekistan is going in Group K. What's going on here? My mistake. I assumed they go into Group I. They're in Group K. Okay. Okay, so Portugal avoids Norway. Now we have Panama. So Uzbekistan, not in Group I, as I thought they would be. They're in Group K. My bad, everybody. My bad. Panama, qualifier from CONCACAF. CONCACAF represent our people. Panama, maybe not regulars at the World Cup, but we've seen them quite a few times in the last little while. They are going into Group L alongside Croatia and England. So that means Norway in the same group as France and Senegal. My. Okay, so now that pot 3 is completed, guys, what do you think as far as which group is the group of death? I'm looking at France, Norway, Senegal. You have a dark horse with one of the, maybe the best striker right now in Erling Haaland, as well as Martin Odegaard, Antonio Nusa. You got all these good players. Then you have Senegal, recent AFCON winners. And then you have France, been to the last 2 World Cup finals. That is the group that I'm looking at as the group of death right now. You know, respect to other groups like, Spain, Saudi Arabia, Uruguay. It's just not at that level, in my opinion. Germany, Ivory Coast, Ecuador, very good. Scotland, Brazil, and Morocco. We got to respect that one as well. Because that's going to be a difficult one. You could see a world where this version of Brazil loses to one of either Morocco or Scotland. You could see that happen. So that could be a very, very interesting group. As far as a very balanced group, A, B, and D, the host nations getting some pretty balanced groups, I would say. Maybe, you'd look to Switzerland as being the standout for the Group B, but then pretty even in Group A, Group D. Haaland versus Mbappe times 2, says Jason Queiroz, for France versus Norway. Group C, E, and I are looking like the most difficult, says Blomberg. Mike, my bad. Now in pot 4, we have Jordan making their debut, of course. Cape Verde making their debut. Ghana not making their debut. Curaçao making their debut. Haiti not. New Zealand not. New Zealand last were in the World Cup in South Africa. I believe Chris Wood was there as a very, very young man, and he's going to be there again as an older man. So, hey, New Zealand, we'll see how they do. Mike says, how does Norway fall into that group with another European team? Shouldn't they swap with Group A? Mike, you trying to get me on this again? Trying to get me on this? So, Mike might be trying to trip me up here, but it's a good learning moment for all of us. Of course, there has to be a UEFA team in each group. There will be 4 groups that have 2 UEFA teams. So yes, you can have 2 UEFA teams in one group. No more than that. So we already have France and Norway as a double UEFA. We have England, Croatia as a double UEFA. Do we have any others? I don't believe so. So we'll see. But yeah, that's it. That's it as far as the UEFA constrictions. And then we also saw some interesting bouncing around of the groups because I believe they were trying to make it so that the separation of the top 4 teams would occur. Now, Jordan, as I said, making their debut, very good attacking side, made a final of the Asian Cup. Cape Verde, they did very well in the previous Africa Cup of Nations, really started to put themselves on the map there. They have made it to the World Cup. Great to see. Very small nation of about 500-ish thousand. Ghana, they have World Cup pedigree. They've been there a few times. They've had great teams in the past. This generation, not their strongest in comparison to previous ones. Curaçao, as I was talking about, they're making their debut. One of the smallest countries as far as landmass and population, about 150,000. That has, far less than many American cities, right? So here we go. They're going to begin pot 4 soon here. Darmani says, in past World Cups, out of the 8 groups, 6 had 2 European teams. So yes, UEFA Playoff D. UEFA Playoff D. That's the one that has Czechia and Ireland. And I can pull up the other teams as well. But they are going into Group A. Group A for UEFA Playoff D. So one of our mysteries, UEFA Playoff A. Ooh, so that could be Wales, that could be Bosnia, that could be Italy, and that could be Northern Ireland. Playoff A has been drawn. They're going into Group B. So yes, it could be Canada, Qatar, Switzerland, Italy, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Wales, or Northern Ireland in that group. Next up, who do we have? Who will go to Group C? Haiti. That's tough. That's tough. It was always going to be tough either way. Let's see where Haiti end up. I potentially could be watching Haaland versus Mbappe in Toronto. Listen, never thought you'd be able to say that, eh? So Haiti gets into Group C alongside Brazil, Morocco, and Scotland. There you go. That's going to be tough, but hey, maybe they can make some magic happen at some point. Believe in fairy tales. Curaçao, where are they going to end up? They should be in Group E. They can't go in the same group as Group D, correct? So I would think Group E. Yep, so Germany, Cote d'Ivoire, Ecuador, and Curaçao. Oh, Curaçao, that's going to be fun for them, playing against big, big nations. Germany, Ivory Coast, maybe not as big as they used to be when they had the Torres and the Drogbas, etc., but still a very talented side. And Ecuador, a little Moises Caicedo for you. Kendry Paez, some very good players on that team. Now, FIFA Playoff 2, which I believe is the playoff that would have the winner of Iraq versus either Suriname or Bolivia. I believe that's playoff number 2. That should be it. So FIFA playoff number 2 is going into Group I. So, could be Iraq. I think. I need to get confirmation on that it's FIFA playoff, that is number 2, because I believe DR Congo is number 1, their final. Cabo Verde, where are they going to, or Cape Verde, where are they going to end up? Will they get tossed in with Group D? Let's see. Who could be UEFA Playoff A? Asks Bob. That could be Italy, Northern Ireland, Wales, or Bosnia and Herzegovina. Cape Verde into Group H alongside Spain, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and Uruguay. Oh, we only have, well, actually, I keep forgetting that there's all the other playoff teams to draw as well. So we have Jordan, Ghana, New Zealand, UEFA Playoff B, C, and FIFA Playoff 1 to go through still. So UEFA Playoff C, could be Slovakia, could be Kosovo. Here we go. They're going into Group D with the USA. So that could be Slovakia, Kosovo, Turkey, or Romania. So a wide range of difficulty there. If Romania gets through, you're feeling better about it. If, Kosovo does have a decent team as well. Slovakia, they can cause issues. Turkey is the one that I'm looking at as a very difficult side that you will not want in that group, because then, it's still very balanced though when you look at it. Australia, they're still a good side. USA, Paraguay, and then if it is Turkey, if it does happen to be them, it's still going to be very balanced. Anyone can beat anyone. Now we have playoff B which does have Ukraine, Sweden, Poland, and Albania in it, and they are going to Group F. Group F. So we will have 2 UEFA sides in Group F. Next up, Jordan. Jordan, the debutants. Gonzalez saying that Turkey is the sleeper here. Yeah, Turkey is definitely, with the talent they have, Arda Güler, Kenan Yildiz. Jordan is going into Group J with Argentina, Algeria, and Austria. I think Argentina are happy with that draw, I would say. Austria, of course, are looking a lot better under Ralf Rangnick, but overall, pretty happy with that. Their belief that you can beat those teams. And of course, we can't allow sort of the what's on paper cloud our vision, because we saw what happened in the past World Cup when Argentina played against Saudi Arabia, right? Now, FIFA playoff number 1. FIFA playoff number 1. Where will they end up? That will be either your DR Congo, New Caledonia, Jamaica, one of those nations. They're going into Group K. So Portugal with Uzbekistan, Colombia, and then the winner of the FIFA Intercontinental Playoff number 1. So we have New Zealand and we have Ghana left to decide where they are going to go. It's going to be Ghana into Group L, New Zealand into Group G, due to the fact that Egypt is already in Group G. But we will, of course, due process, we will, of course, see the draw through, just because I have been wrong before. Vinny is feeling very good about the USA. He's saying that the USA will make it out of their group because Paraguay is looking too weak. And there you have it. Ghana is in Group L. So England have Croatia. They have Panama, who they've beaten up on before at a World Cup in 2018, I believe it was. And then you have Ghana as well. So, teams that can cause upsets for sure. And Croatia, you never know what you're going to get. They don't do well in the Euros, Croatia. They tend to really slack in the Euros. But when it comes World Cup time, they turn it up a notch. Old man Modric is going to be running laps around all these young kids, no problem. So New Zealand, they are in with Belgium, Egypt, Iran. And they're going to have it tough. They're definitely going to have it tough. So yes, again, let's go through this, guys. Let's go through it group by group, looking at all of this. Do let me know your opinions on who you think has the toughest draw, of course, who you think the group of death is. In Group A, you have Mexico with South Africa, Korea, and a UEFA side. In Group B, you have Canada, a UEFA side, Qatar, and Switzerland. I think both of these groups are fairly even. Yes, as I said, I do think that Switzerland is sort of the standout that stands above them, but the rest of the teams are looking at each other thinking that they are winnable matches, that they can beat the others. Then in Group C, you have Brazil, Morocco, Haiti, and Scotland. I'm looking at Brazil, Morocco, and Scotland, and I'm thinking that things could get a little dicey there. I can see Scotland beating Brazil. This version of Brazil. I can see that happening. I can see Morocco beating Scotland or losing to Scotland. So anyone can beat anyone there based on current form, at least. Then you have Group D, USA taking on Paraguay, as well as Australia and a UEFA side. We'll see which one it ends up being. But if you're USA, again, just like the other host nations, you're looking at the teams that you're sharing this group with and you're thinking, we can beat these guys. These are winnable matches. These are winnable matches. Group E, you have Germany, Curacao, Cote d'Ivoire, Ivory Coast, and Ecuador. Again, I think that Germany and Ecuador are the two favorites within this group. Curacao, are they there for vibes? Maybe they can cause an upset. Who knows? They're on this run with Dick Advocaat as the coach. Maybe they can cause an upset. But it's looking like Cote d'Ivoire would end up being the third favorite within that group. But they are AFCON champions, defending champions. So they could just as easily finish above Ecuador or Germany. Germany has failed in the last 2 World Cups, so let's not count them as through just yet. And then in Group F, you have Netherlands, Japan, Tunisia, and a UEFA side. Japan, they can cause issues. Netherlands, as I was saying, looking very strong. I do like the looks of them, but I wonder about their defense. Let's see what kind of shape Van Dijk is in towards the end of this season. Tunisia didn't concede a goal in qualifying, and then a UEFA side thrown in there as well. In Group G, you have Belgium, Egypt, Iran, and New Zealand. Belgium, like I was saying at the beginning, not the strongest of the Pot 1 teams. They are a team that is beatable. The question is, can this group of Iran, New Zealand, and Egypt beat them? Maybe not in New Zealand's case, but Egypt, you could see it. Iran, I'm up and down with Iran. I don't know when they're good and when they're bad. I'm not always up to date with them. It seems like they're sort of up and down, but they certainly have very talented players. Now, Group H, España, Cape Verde, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. My God, it's been a long time. And Uruguay, very difficult group. We'll see what kind of shape Uruguay is in. Group I, you have France, Senegal, a FIFA Intercontinental Playoff team, and Norway. For me, this is the group of death. In Group J, then you have Argentina, Algeria, Austria, and Jordan. I think that Argentina are obviously the very strong favorites in that group. They'll be very happy with this draw. In Group K, Portugal, Colombia. That is a tasty matchup. A very tasty matchup, as well as Uzbekistan and another FIFA Intercontinental Playoff side. And finally, in Group L, England, Croatia, Ghana, and Panama. And those are the groups, and I think I still stand by it. People are saying no true group of death, maybe Group C and I. Yeah, you could look at those two. I think that Group I, for me, like I was saying, is the one, just because you have France and Norway and Senegal. But then again, Brazil, Morocco, and Scotland. I see that maybe less so a group of death, more so a group of competition, to put it not very eloquently. And then let's go to any others. Were there any other groups of death that we see? Haaland versus Mbappe. Imagine if Italy doesn't make it again. And then let's look at the U.S. men's national team, because now looking at their group, you have Paraguay, you have Australia, an Australia team that gave Argentina some issues in the past World Cup. Paraguay, who the U.S. men's national team did just beat. When you look at their past performances, you think of 2010, you think of that Landon Donovan winner, 91st minute against Algeria. You lose to Ghana in extra time, unfortunately, in the next round. But that was a very good Ghana team that made it all the way to the quarterfinals? Yeah, quarterfinals, where they lost against Uruguay. 2014, first thing I think of is Tim Howard and that unbelievable match that he had against Belgium, where he set the record for the most saves ever made in a World Cup knockout round match. Maybe even in just a World Cup match in general. 16 saves by Tim Howard. Unbelievable performance from him in 2018. Not much to talk about there. Didn't make it, unfortunately, the big embarrassment. And then 2022 did fairly well in their group. The winner from Pulisic against Iran will be maybe the lasting memory for a lot of people. Then they end up losing to that Netherlands side. A very good Netherlands side that ended up pushing Argentina, the champions, all the way. So I think that the big difference from Qatar to now, it has to be that the team seems a little bit more united. And I think that you have an even better Pulisic. You have others like Tillman and Tessman coming through as well, all these sorts of guys. But the team is a little bit more united now, in that the big difference is in the coaching, in Thomas Tuchel. Not Thomas Tuchel, in Mauricio Pochettino. Mauricio Pochettino has done a fantastic job in the last couple of months with this team. And as you can see, the winner of Turkey, Romania, Slovakia, or Kosovo will be in that team group with them. So yes, very favorable draw says Mr. Tom Bogart. But yes, what I was saying there was that Mauricio Pochettino has done such a good job in that a lot of people were doubting what he was doing if he was taking it very seriously. The United States will take on Paraguay, who they had that big scrap with recently in that friendly, in their first match of this World Cup. And I think that ultimately that will be a team that is out for revenge against them. So it's probably not going to be so easy for them. Not that it was easy in the last match, but the U.S. men's national team did play very well. You had Gio Reyna playing very well in that match as well. And so, yeah, I think that Mauricio Pochettino, he has this vision. He has all these guys who he's going to be leaning on, especially like a Christian Pulisic, who has 50 goal contributions in Serie A alone since going to AC Milan, more than any other player since his arrival. He scored the winner in the recent Milan derby. And this has sort of become his Milan team, you know? This has become a team where he's the undroppable one in that attack, which you never would have thought of when he was making that move from Chelsea over to AC Milan, because he was sort of a guy on the outs at Chelsea. He was, getting garbage time minutes, that kind of thing. But now he goes to this team that has a Rafael Leão and all these other talented players, and Christian Pulisic is the guy. He is the guy that is propelling that attack forward. Similarly, it's sort of become his U.S. men's national team, right? He's the guy that everyone sort of looks to as the guy to lead them forward, at least in performance. Because maybe he's, a lot of guys consider him the greatest U.S. men's national team player of all time. And I think that the argument as far as at least what he's accomplished overseas and how well he's done with the U.S. men's national team as well, being important to some of the cup wins that they've had in CONCACAF, it's a deserving title. It is a deserving title. At the 22 World Cup, he had 1 goal and 2 assists, the youngest ever U.S. men's national team captain. He is absolutely central to a lot of their hopes. But the rest of the team is very talented as well. I mean, you have also someone like a Matt Friese, who's done fantastic under Mauricio Pochettino, someone who maybe we wouldn't have expected to see out there so quickly. But he's the only guy that Mauricio Pochettino is really giving opportunities with. And with that comes a lot of pressure, right? Because formerly it was a Matt Turner or what have you, and he hasn't really even given opportunities to those guys. He's basically made it clear that Matt Friese is the guy he's going for. That does shovel pressure on him, but clearly he has the belief. And he's paid back that belief very, very well with great performances. So that has been one of the more interesting developments since Mauricio Pochettino has taken over. And Mike says it's Reem Dini's team. Good old Tim Ream, another guy who they sort of look to as a leader. But speaking of which, you have Tyler Adams as well, who is absolutely someone who will look to, someone who people will look to as a leader within that team. He is integral, in my opinion, to their success in the midfield. He provides control. He provides cover. I think he provides a calmness that is sort of infectious for the rest of the team when they know that they have him in that starting 11. There he is, right there. Our group for the 2026 FIFA World Cup, Mr. Tyler Adams. A really good player, a guy who was doing really well in Germany, and now he's in England. Injuries, maybe a little bit of an issue, a bit of concern. But when he is healthy, the U.S. men's national team is that much better for it. Then, of course, you have someone like a Weston McKennie. It's interesting that you're seeing people question his place within this side, because for so long he was one of the automatic first on the team sheet kinds of guys. You see people questioning, though, where he kind of fits within this formation, because the U.S. men's national team had this formation change to sort of a 3-4-3, 3-4-2-1, however you want to look at it. Where do you put Weston? Because you don't really want him deep. That's where you have guys like Cardozo, Adams, what have you, or even a Berhalter, if you will. And hey, look at this. How might Poch's 11 look for the U.S. men's national team opening World Cup game, where they have Fuller and Balogun, you have Tim Weah, you have Christian Pulisic, Anthony Robinson. I think that those wingbacks are a lock. Sergiño Dest and Anthony Robinson. Chris Richards, yes. Miles Robinson, yes. Tim Ream. Maybe there's a Freeman in there at the expense of either Robinson or Tim Ream, because Freeman did very well in the last window, playing both as a center back and playing on the right. He can do both. He provides a lot of physicality and some in the attack. Then you have Tanner Tessman and Christian Roldan. I don't know if CR7 will be getting the start. I think that Adams will be in there as sort of the ideal kind of lineup. And then Tim Weah, that's maybe another one that we'll see, because he's more suited to playing either as a wing back or an out-and-out winger, whereas in this system, maybe you would have a Malik Tillman in there or a Luna or someone like that. So we'll see. That's what I think could be a possible lineup. And then also, I mean, Chris Richards, just speaking on him, he really impressed me at the previous Gold Cup. I think he impressed a lot of people how he sort of rose and became a leader, and we saw this sort of final version of Chris Richards as the player that he should be within this U.S. men's national team setup, sort of a leader in there. And I know that this sounds stupid, but he was a pundit for the Club World Cup this past summer as well. And the way that he articulated himself and was able to analyze the match, it just sort of was another tick of the box for me as someone who you can trust that sees the game super well, will be able to sort of analyze and tell his players where to be, who can spot danger before it happens, and for himself, for his own positioning as well. So Chris Richards is absolutely someone that I see as integral to any success that the U.S. men's national team will have. And I did speak about Weston McKennie a little bit, but you can see where the issue sort of comes with him, because where do you put him is if they do the 3-4-2-1 where you have two guys sort of behind the striker, maybe you want him up there, but you don't really want him in that deeper position. But do you try to ham-fist him in, just force him into the team just because of the name that's associated with him? That's the big issue that people are seeing with Weston McKennie, which is unfortunate because he's such a good and important player for them in the last little bit. So, I think that the U.S. men's national team has a very, very competitive squad, especially the way that they are doing, under Mauricio Pochettino. So, just looking at it again. They've beaten Paraguay already. It was a friendly. People don't want to take too much stock in friendlies, but they do count towards something. They've shown that they can beat Paraguay, and they did so pretty handily. Australia is a team that can cause issues as well. They gave a lot of issues to Argentina previously. We'll see how they do. I think that, again, this is a team that the United States are going to be looking at as someone that they can get points from in this group. And then the UEFA playoff, where we'll see who it actually ends up being. If it is a Turkey, that is going to be a little bit scary for them. Just let me double check that it could be Turkey. Yes, it could be Slovakia, Kosovo, Turkey, or Romania. Romania, you really are going to back the USA to beat Romania. Slovakia caused some issues at Euro 2024, so Slovakia can cause issues. They did for, Belgium, for example. Kosovo, sort of an emerging team. They do have a good young team. They do have some ballers on that team, like Zagrova, who plays for Juventus. Fantastic player. So they can cause issues as well, but it's Turkey who you want to be avoiding for sure. Kenan Yildiz, Arda Güler. They have some really good players on that side. But overall, I think that you're happy with this draw if you're the United States. This could have been far, far, far more difficult. And thankfully for them, this is who they end up with, and they have to feel confident of their ability to go through. Now, Native Son says Paraguay is going to beat the USA easily to win the group. Yeah, we'll see. Paraguay is looking very, very good in the qualifying that they just had. Sorry. Now, the USA does have some great matchups coming up that they have scheduled. They're going to be playing against Germany. They're going to be playing against Portugal. They're going to be playing against Belgium. So they are going for the very difficult sides within the world. They're not just wanting some sort of layups that they can play prior to the World Cup. In March, they're going to be playing against Portugal and Belgium. Belgium, like we were saying, maybe not the strongest they've ever been, but again, it's not like they're playing against some team that hasn't qualified, that they just want to sort of get their reps in on. No, they want to be challenged, and they're doing so, especially against Portugal. Portugal is going to be a very difficult side. Portugal is one of the best teams coming into this. Just outside of that top four, Portugal has Cristiano Ronaldo. They're blessed with an excellent squad, as we have seen so far. So that is going to be a team that really pushes this United States national team, and you get to see sort of their mettle up against top opposition. And finally, June 6th, right before the World Cup, you're going to have them up against Germany and then against TBD. We'll see who that is. Don't know. But June 6th against Germany right before the World Cup is fantastic. Germany is really going to push them as well, even though, like we were saying, maybe not the strongest Germany that we have seen. Now, let's go to the group of death. The group of death, I'm still going to stand by as Group I on the screen here. So we have France, who've made it to the last two finals, Kylian Mbappe, etc. Senegal won a relatively recent AFCON, very talented side. Norway, the team that scored the most goals in European qualifying, Erling Haaland spearheading that attack. You have Martin Odegaard behind him. You have Antonio Nusa, an absolute baller. Norway is a team you do not want to face. And then you have the FIFA playoff number 2 team, which could either be Iraq or Suriname or Bolivia. So for me, this has to be the group of death. Is it the strongest group of death that we've seen compared to previous World Cups? I'm not so sure about that. However, this is the hand that we've been dealt. It is still going to be very competitive. We've seen that France can start slow in tournaments. They did in the Euros, weren't at their best, and they still ended up making a pretty decent run in that tournament, did they? Norway, they're holding that dark horse status for a lot of people. Can they top this group? We'll have to wait and see. This is the group that I'm going to be watching very closely. Kylian Mbappe versus Erling Haaland in the group stage of the World Cup. That is going to be one of the most watched matches of the group stage. I can guarantee you that, because like I was saying, these were the two that were sort of seen as the guys who were taking up the mantle from Ronaldo and Messi as the two guys who are going to battle to be the best in the world in this next generation. Then a young Spaniard named Lamine Yamal came along, and he sort of forced himself into the conversation as well, but still, both in insane form, scoring a ton of goals. It's going to be an absolutely incredible matchup. Erling Haaland, a guy who, I spoke about this a little bit earlier, but is really rounding out his game at Manchester City. He's really become, I mean, he is quite literally the number one, or one of the captains. He's within that captain group at this team, and he's really taken on that leader role very well. He is looked upon as someone who can lead this team, who sets the standards, etc. He's the fastest player to ever reach 50 international goals. If you look at the line charts of the various teams, if you look at the line charts of the various players who have really popped off in international scoring, like your Ronaldos and Lewandowskis and Messis, etc., those guys compared to Erling Haaland, I mean, his is like straight up like this. You know, his is like going straight to the sun. He's the Norway all-time goals leader. He's doing it at the club level as well, and he just cannot stop scoring. And this Norway side, you've seen sort of the fruits of their labor when they did a complete rejig. You know, also a guy I forgot about, Oscar Bob, in there as well, Manchester City teammate of Erling Haaland. They did this complete rejig of their youth system and basically the youth pyramid in order to develop young talent in Norway, and look at how well that has suited them. I mean, going perfect through their group stage of qualifying, beating Italy twice, fourth in World Cup appearances now, their fourth World Cup appearance, I should say. First time since 1998. Funnily enough, a lot of people were hoping that they would get into the same group as Brazil, because they are the only team that has come up against Brazil and has never lost to them. They have a perfect, well, not perfect record, but I believe they have a couple of wins and 2 draws against Brazil, only one of which was in a FIFA World Cup. Now, Erling Haaland scored in every game of Norway's World Cup qualifying campaign as his country qualified for their first World Cup since 1998. 5 against Moldova. 5 of them, 2 against Israel, or 3 against Israel, 2 against Estonia, 2 against Italy. Wow. and then again against Italy, Israel, and Moldova, 1 apiece. Insane. He's been an absolutely incredible player for them for a long time now at this point. Even at the youth levels, he had that game where he scored 9 goals. So Erling Haaland has been popping off for them for a long time. Kylian Mbappe, speak about someone who's been popping off for a long time. It was about 10 years ago, or it will be about 10 years ago, that he really emerged for that AS Monaco side that made that deep run in the Champions League. And this 16-year-old kid, super lanky, super fast, and had an unreal finish on him. A couple of years later, he wins the World Cup. Excuse me. His first attempt at doing so, he wins the World Cup in 2018 for France. And from there has just gone from strength to strength to strength. The thing that a lot of people were questioning about him, even though his performances were unbelievable, but they were questioning, okay, we know that you can do this in Ligue 1. We've seen you do it on the international stage with France in 2018. You did quite well. Euro 2020, not so much. They go out against Switzerland, I believe it was, in a shootout. And then the 2022 World Cup, they do it again. But the question was, can you do it when you move to a league that isn't Ligue 1? His first season at Real Madrid, still scored a ton of goals, but not one to remember as far as the performances that Real Madrid had, as far as silverware or anything like that. But now he is undoubtedly the leader of that Real Madrid team, both in performance and, I mean, Xabi Alonso sees him as a leader as well. He says that he's one of the guys who sort of sets the standards as far as effort, as far as training, everything like that. People look to him in the dressing room as one of the leaders. Mbappe versus Haaland in group stage. Yeah, that's going to be good. I believe we also have a Manchester City and Real Madrid one coming along as well. So we're going to see a lot of Haaland versus Mbappe, which we love to see. But Kylian Mbappe scoring goals for fun, coming into this World Cup, so far at least, in hot form. And there's some people that are kind of looking at this, you know, and it's funny that they're in the same group now because it just increases that even more so. They're sort of looking at this as whoever has the better of the 2 seasons will end up winning the Ballon d'Or. Will it be Kylian Mbappe for what he's done with Real Madrid? Will he win the Champions League? Will it be Erling Haaland with Manchester City? Will they win the Champions League? In my opinion, not looking likely with Manchester City's defending issues. But the World Cup could be a place where both of them sort of show that they are the worthy winner. Haaland versus Mbappe in the group stages. This will be World Cup cinema. Yes, I agree. Now, who wins the group of death, people? It's, I mean, maybe that's not what you would expect to see for a group of death, just so heavily slanted in one way. However, look, it's France. They have one of the most talented groups of players. They could send 2 different teams to the World Cup and both of them would be very, very competitive. So it's not that much of a surprise, I guess, to see France as that sort of undoubted leader for the group of death. Now, speaking of, we've touched a lot on this Mbappe versus Haaland, but Ronaldo and Messi are still around. Ronaldo and Messi are still going. Look, it's going to be Ronaldo's final World Cup. He did confirm that. Messi's most likely. I mean, he hasn't confirmed it. He hasn't outright said it, but we did see him very emotional, crying at the end of his, what was probably going to be final World Cup qualifying match in Argentina. World Cup comparison between the two. Messi, 26 appearances. Ronaldo, 22. 13 goals for Messi. 8 for Ronaldo. 8 assists for Messi. 2 for Ronaldo. So Messi has 21 goal contributions. Ronaldo has 10 championships. 1 for Messi. Now, I will say, Ronaldo has only had a good backup cast since maybe the 2022-ish World Cup. 2018 was okay as well, but I think the 2022 was where it really started to get better. Now it's sort of at its peak, just with what the players are doing all over Europe. You have the Portuguese guys at PSG, Vitinha, João Neves, Gonçalo Ramos. You have a great back line, midfield, attack, all of it. Messi's, I think, has been a little bit better, but still, Ronaldo hasn't scored a goal in the knockout rounds of a World Cup. That is something that he will definitely be looking to rectify in this one. And he says that he doesn't really care much for the World Cup, that he doesn't really need it to cement his legacy, but he will absolutely be wanting to win this. Of course he will. Both of them will. Let's take a look at their groups quickly. Let's look at what Argentina is going to be up against, because we now know sort of their relative paths to get to the final. We'll take a look at that in just a second, but Messi, if he was to get a second one, what does that do for the sort of GOAT debate, right? Just think about that for a second as we look at Algeria, Jordan, and Austria. For me, at least, there isn't really a team that can truly stand in their way of topping this group. Austria, well coached by Ralf Rangnick, do have some talented players, but I don't think that they have enough to get above Argentina. Algeria, very talented side as well. Can they finish above Argentina? I don't think so. Jordan, making their debut, good attacking side. Can they defend well enough to hold off this Argentina attack? I don't think so. So I think that Argentina, as we were saying earlier, I think that they're very, very happy with this group stage draw, and that they'll be looking towards the knockout rounds already. We'll see if they get that first place spot so that they can get that sort of preferential treatment that FIFA is going to give Argentina, Spain, France, and England as far as separating them in the different quadrants of the knockout stages. And now when we look at Portugal's group, maybe a little bit more difficult. Portugal's group, of course, they have Colombia. They have, we'll get there in a second. Colombia, Uzbekistan, and FIFA playoff number 1, which I believe could either be DR Congo, or it could be New Caledonia or Jamaica. So if you're Portugal, I think that you're confident that you're going to be finishing in the top 2. Uzbekistan, for me, is kind of the wild card because I don't know them as well. I know that they're talented, obviously, for how well they did in qualifying. They do have a new coach in Fabio Cannavaro, so that kind of complicates things and whether they're going to be the same. But Colombia, this is the team that is going to be very scary for Portugal. This is the team that can cause a lot of issues for Portugal's back line, because I said they have a good back line. It's pretty good. Ruben Dias scares me a little bit. I think that he's not in the best form, as are a lot of those Manchester City players. And then it's sort of a question mark as to who will be next to him. Will it be Gonzalo Inacio of Sporting? Probably. But I do like the fullback positions, especially Nuno Mendes, if he's healthy, because that's always a concern. He does pick up those injuries from time to time. But when he is on, as he has shown, one of the best left backs in the world. He did unreal for PSG last season. So then you have Cristiano Ronaldo at the top, attacking for Portugal. And look, his record speaks for himself. There's a lot of people who speak about how does he contribute to the overall dynamic and how does Portugal play without him. I think there's a lot of arguments that you can make for and against it. If you want to see a team that plays a pressing style where everyone's running around the pitch, then Ronaldo at 40 years old won't really offer you that. But what he will offer you is an absolute killer in the box, an aerial threat. Like I said, he can still pull off an overhead kick. This is a 5-time Ballon d'Or winner. This is a guy who is closing in on 1,000 goals. He's still scoring regularly for club and country. Is he the player he was? Can he do all the things he used to do as far as acceleration and stuff like that? Maybe not. But I actually saw that during European qualifying, he had a higher top speed than Lamine Yamal, which is crazy. So acceleration down, top speed still pretty good. So yeah, he's the all-time leader in goals and appearances. Saying Ronaldo never had a good backup cast in World Cup is bad analysis. In 2010, definitely not. In 2014, definitely not. In 2006, Portugal had quite a good team. 2018, okay. 2018 is where I said that it really started, or 2022 is where it really picked up. And I think that that's where you saw a Portugal side that was at the same sort of level as maybe this 2022 version, 2019 to 2022 version of Argentina to sort of back up Messi. That's what I was saying. 2010, 2014, not good. 2014 didn't even get out of the group, I believe. World Cup stats: best finish 1 for Lionel Messi, 4 for Cristiano Ronaldo. And what else are we saying in the chat, guys? Evan Daniel says, what sport is this? This is polo. This was the big draw for the Polo World Cup, and it's looking like it's going to be a heater. Tegisman says, he'll never do a champions again. They've lost the eye. Why Uzbekistan in Group K and J? I'm sure they had a good reason for that. Full of surprises and fun. Bench Pulisic at all costs, says someone. I don't think that's going to happen. Unless you are a rival fan, I don't think that Pulisic is going to be benched for this World Cup. Unless you mean AC Milan bench him to keep him fresh for this World Cup, then yeah, that will be preferred, I'm sure, for a lot of people. And now let's just quickly look at some notable guys who are going to be making their first World Cup debut. Of course, we already spoke about Erling Haaland. We spoke about Erling Haaland a lot. I thought that he was going to be one of those guys that maybe never made it to a World Cup when he was first popping up onto the scene, but he clearly has a very good Norwegian side behind him now. They're first since 1998. They were in that long, dark period where they hadn't made a World Cup for a long time. But now they've gone in the complete opposite. They've swung violently in the opposite direction to the point where they are considered one of the teams that you do not want to be drawn next to. And so, yes, Erling Haaland, that is a huge debut. He is a guy who loves a cup competition. Just look at how he embraces the Champions League. Of course, he loves scoring goals no matter which competition he's playing in, but look at how much he relishes those big moments in the Champions League under those bright lights. He steps up. Can he do it for Norway at this World Cup? A betting man would say yes. I am not a betting man, but I'm still saying yes. It's not going to be an easy group up against France and Senegal and whoever that FIFA playoff number 2 team will end up being. But you can expect Erling Haaland to score some goals. If he doesn't score goals, that will be one of the more unbelievable stats at this World Cup. Then, of course, you have Lamine Yamal, the young man who showed that, speaking of bright lights not phasing someone, he was not phased at all at Euro 2024 at just 16, turning 17. I think he turned 17 just before the final, essentially. He was playing super well through the group stage, getting assists, etc. Then he scores that unreal goal against France. I think that the one thing that people will be a little bit nervous about is this recurring injury that he has been having. I saw this chart of Neymar's injuries through time. And when he was a 17-year-old playing for Santos all the way up until, 2014 when he was 21 or 22, that's when the injuries really started to hit. And the sheer amount of appearances that Lamine Yamal has been making will have people a little bit nervous in that regard. But a fully fit Lamine Yamal, he's shown already that he can do wonders down that right wing for Spain. He already has an international trophy under his belt at such a young age. They'll be up against Uruguay, which we don't know what kind of shape Uruguay is going to be in, with Marcelo Bielsa and the question mark hanging over his head. Saudi Arabia, they've shown that they can provide a lot of issues for teams. Cape Verde, they had a good AFCON, but since then, things have been a little bit weird, but then they qualified for the World Cup. So we'll see what kind of Cape Verde we'll get there. They're a great story, but you would still back Spain to probably top that group, assuming Uruguay doesn't get their stuff together anytime soon. But if they do, then that Uruguay side is going to be very, very difficult indeed. So Lamine Yamal leading the Spain team, a very talented Spain team. He has another opportunity to do something unbelievable. Just imagine if he won a Euro and a World Cup by 18, 19 years old. That would be insane. That would be absolutely insane, generational stuff. And finally, we have Estevão, the young Brazilian, making his case to be one of the sort of standout debutants at this tournament, and I absolutely am buying into the hype. I am a big Estevão believer. He is a fantastic player. He's shown that at Chelsea this season, making the jump from Palmeiras in Brazil all the way over to London and doing bits over there. This is Brazil's 23rd World Cup appearance, eliminated in the quarterfinals in 2022. They have the World Cup heritage. What they're looking for right now is that next big idol. And it's not just the right wing that is kind of up for grabs for me, because the way Ancelotti's been playing has been interesting, where he's had Rodrigo and Vinicius on the left. and then another striker, and then Estevão on the right. So the right is up for grabs, and I think that he'll firmly grab hold of that as long as he continues on this trajectory. But also, there's room to become the guy for Brazil now that Neymar's time has come to an end, or is coming to an end. We'll see if he ends up making the final squad. And Estevão certainly has that ability to do so. He has the dribbling ability, shooting, passing, set pieces, you name it, he can do it all. And an eye for the goal. Great vision in the box, and a great senses in the box to end up on the end of attacks. I was buffering there. I didn't freeze. I was buffering. But Brazil's group is looking really difficult. Morocco, Scotland, it's not going to be easy for them. Now, you guys voted which star has the best chance to win the World Cup. Now, of course, the team they play for is going to come into this, of course. But Yamal is leading the way with 44%. Then you have Estevão, then you have Haaland. And essentially, if you were to sort of rank the likelihood and, just sort of swap their names for their country, I think that it would be the same kind of thing. But all three players are going to be watched very closely. And guys who are not making their debut but are trying to win their first World Cup, I think the most notable of all has to be Cristiano Ronaldo, who we just spoke about. He'll be 41 at this World Cup, but he is not slowing down. He is a guy that has been scoring goals over and over in Saudi Arabia. We just saw him do an overhead kick. He saw Scott McTominay do an overhead kick, and he said, I can do that too at 40 years old, and it was just unbelievable. It's his 6th attempt at playing in this World Cup, at winning this World Cup, I should say. His best finish was 4th back in 2006. I remember that relatively clearly. Portugal losing against Germany in that 3rd place playoff. Schweinsteiger tearing Portugal apart. The last World Cup goal that the last World Cup that he played in, but the last World Cup goal that he scored, I guess I could say too, was against Ghana in 2022 in that opening match, and then he didn't score from there. The final, in the final group stage matches, he did start, but then in the knockout stage, Fernando Santos did what a lot of people were calling for, and they benched him. Portugal wins 6-1 with Ronaldo on the bench, and then they lose to Morocco. So we'll see. I mean, I thought that was going to be the last that we ever saw of Cristiano Ronaldo at a World Cup, him leaving the field in tears. And I think that's why he wanted to get redemption one more time so that it doesn't end like that. A guy who, with his legacy, the final thing that we saw of Cristiano Ronaldo was him playing against Morocco as a substitute and then leaving in tears. I don't think he wanted that lasting image. Will he be able to get it? He certainly has a good backup cast, as we've spoken about here in the chat as well. And so Portugal will be one of the teams that could make that happen for him. Now, Harry Kane. Harry Kane is another one who will be chasing that World Cup. And England, they have a great chance at it. I think they are deserving to be considered in the top 4. Harry Kane, the one thing that I worry about with him is that we saw at Euro 2024, towards the end of that season, going into Euro 2024, Harry Kane was absolutely torched physically. He was walking around a lot. He was dropping deeper than he ever has, whether that was by design, I'm not so sure, but he looked like a guy who was playing injured. Now, he was able to play all of last season, then a Club World Cup, and into this season. So far, so good. Maybe there's some magic in those custom Skechers boots that he's been wearing. But so far, the ankle's been holding up. So that's the one thing I worry about with Harry Kane as far as going into this World Cup. But with him at the front of this English team that is just stacked with talent, from the attack to the midfield to the back line, under the organization of Thomas Tuchel, because that's something that people spoke about all the time, was this is a highly talented English side, but under Southgate, is he the guy that can really get the best out of them? Are they making it to these finals in spite of him? With Tuchel organizing them, a guy who's proven in tournaments, you would not be surprised if you were seeing Mr. Harry Kane lifting the World Cup in July in New York, where we are, where the final is being held. You would not be surprised if you saw that. So Harry Kane, absolutely someone. And then Neymar. Neymar is the sort of wild card that we have here on the list. Will he even make the squad? He's going through an injury right now. He's sort of putting his career on the line by having this injury and still playing in order to save Santos from relegation. But Carlo Ancelotti has said that he still could be called up. He intended to call him up, but he got that injury previously. So if he does make it, I mean, this is one of the best players that Brazil has ever had. That record of 79 goals and 59 assists from 128 appearances, I'm not very good at math, but that is more goals and assists than appearances. Okay? That 2022 World Cup ended quite poorly for him. He did not expect that Brazil were going to go out. They were favorites coming into that. They were looking so good. And then they crash out. They lose to Croatia. Now, let's see what you guys have to say. What's going on in the chat? Hades finished. I feel bad. Yeah, it's that's the way she goes. You know, as a pot 4 team, you sort of succumb to your fate. So there's another thing tomorrow as far as like the kickoffs and stuff like that. More sorting out to do. I don't know. My brain has been FIFA scrambled. I think that I have seen enough of them. And now it's just like the exciting part, really, of sort of dreaming of the path to the final for all of these teams. So yeah, it's going to be good, man. It's really, really exciting to see how it all plays out. I think that for the host countries, especially Mexico and Canada, as we spoke about, it's looking like they're going to be pretty happy with how it goes. Mexico, South Africa, Korea Republic, and UEFA Playoff A, which is, you know, not going to be the easiest because UEFA Playoff A is either Italy or Northern Ireland or Bosnia and Herzegovina or Wales. So that's going to be one of those teams coming in, potentially, depending on who it is, could be the favorite in that group. If it's an Italy or a Wales or something, we'll see. And then Canada, they have UEFA Playoff D, which could be anyone from Czech Republic to Republic of Ireland to Denmark to North Macedonia, alongside Qatar and Switzerland. Then Group C, you have Morocco, Brazil, Haiti, Scotland, which someone was just sort of giving their commiserations to Haiti in the chat, which we definitely stand by that as well. We hope they do well. It's such a heartwarming story to see them go from not playing in their own home nation for 4 years to qualify for this World Cup. Massive for them. First time since 1974. Group D, we went over it a lot. United States, Paraguay, Australia, and then it could be either Turkey or what have you in that final position. Slovakia, Romania, or Kosovo. Again, if you're the United States, I think you like that you have a competitive group where each of the teams that you're up against, you can beat. Germany in Group E also have Curaçao, Cote d'Ivoire, and Ecuador. Ecuador, one of these teams, they're sort of becoming, I'm not going to say the hipster pick, but definitely the pick that people are looking to as a potential dark horse, a team that can cause an upset for just how well they played in CONMEBOL qualifying. Very, very talented side. I mean, the name that comes to mind is Moises Caicedo, of course. He's becoming an absolute monster at Chelsea, just doing everything. He's even added goals to his game now. So Moises Caicedo and Ecuador, watch out for them. Group F, Netherlands, Japan, UEFA Playoff B, and Tunisia. And from UEFA Playoff B, that could be either Ukraine, Sweden, Poland, or Albania, who, you know, all of these teams, even Albania played quite well in qualifying. All of these teams can cause an issue and can kind of shake things up in that group. But Tunisia, not a layup, really not a layup. They were the first team in World Cup qualifying history to get through without conceding a goal until England came along to share that title with them. But they were the first. And then the Netherlands, we'll see how they shape up. Japan, they showed at the past World Cup just how good they are. Now, Group G, Belgium, Egypt, Iran, and New Zealand. New Zealand, I don't know that expectations are mega high for them, just as they weren't back in 2010 when they made their World Cup debut. Iran, they could cause issues, but I don't know, there's just something about them that I can't really believe in. Egypt, they absolutely have good players. We'll see how they stack up because they are an AFCON team. They will be playing at that tournament this month into January, so we'll get to see sort of the makeup of Egypt and how they're looking. And Belgium, not the strongest of the Pot 1 teams, but still have some talented players. Group H, we have Spain, Cape Verde, Saudi Arabia, and Uruguay. They absolutely should top the group. Spain, that is. Cape Verde, they'll probably be there for vibes. Saudi Arabia, they showed at 2022 they can cause issues. Uruguay, we'll see. Bielsa, etc. France, Senegal, FIFA Playoff 2, and Norway, for me, the group of death. Group C, some people are saying is group of death, but for me, France, Senegal, and Norway, definitely the strongest group. Haaland, Mbappe, what else do you want? Group J, Argentina, Algeria, Austria, and Jordan. Argentina, definitely the favorites. Austria, Algeria, I'm kind of looking at those two as potentially going through in second. We'll have to see. Austria very well coached ever since Ralf Rangnick came on, so great stuff from them. And then Group K, you have Portugal, FIFA playoff number 1, the intercontinental one. Uzbekistan and Colombia, big matchup there. Uzbekistan, maybe the team that can cause some upsets. We'll see. Maybe take a devastating draw off of either Colombia or Portugal. We'll see. And then Group L, England, Croatia. Nice little rematch there from the 2018 World Cup. Ghana and Panama. Nice rematch there for Panama as far as the 2018 World Cup after England destroyed them last time. And those are the groups. Now let's look at some of the biggest matchups. You have Spain, Uruguay. That is a big one. Again, we don't know what kind of shape Uruguay is going to be in, whether Marcelo Bielsa will even be the coach of them at that point. He called a press conference out of nowhere. A lot of people thought that he was going to resign, and it had nothing to do with that. So we'll see. We'll see what kind of shape they're in. But Spain is defending European champions. They're coming in with a lot of hype around them. France versus Norway, of course. The quality of the two sides, yes, that's a big draw. But then obviously Mbappe versus Haaland is the big thing that people are going to be looking to as the big narrative surrounding that match. Now, England versus Croatia, jumping ahead of myself here. England versus Croatia, a rematch of the semifinals of the 2018 World Cup, where a mistake at the back from England saw Croatia capitalize on it and go to that final against France. So England definitely will want to get some revenge over Croatia in that one. That's going to be one to watch, as well as Portugal versus Colombia. I always love seeing, a Portuguese or Iberian side up against a South American side. It's super fun, especially with all the South Americans that end up playing in Portugal. So there's going to be a lot of narratives there. You have a very strong Colombian side that can score a ton of goals. Jean Duran, James Rodriguez, Lucho, Luis Diaz in fantastic form with Bayern Munich. So that is another big matchup. And finally, Brazil versus Morocco. If this was a few years ago, maybe you wouldn't even think twice about this match. But since the 22 World Cup, where Morocco did so well to make it all the way to the semifinals, the first African team to ever do so, now you look at this match, especially with the condition that Brazil's in. They've improved a bit under Ancelotti, but they're not at their best. You look at this match and you think, Morocco could win this match. Morocco could absolutely win this match. So those 5 matches are the ones that we are looking at as sort of the big group stage matches at this point in the World Cup. And we'll see how things play out. We'll see how things play out getting into the knockout stages and everything. But guys, it's been a long stream, and we have an even longer wait until the World Cup. I know that we'll need to sleep on this a little bit. We'll need to consider all of these things. We'll see how form comes into this as well. It's still 6 months. People can lose form, gain form, major injuries, hopefully not. We cross our fingers, hopefully not. Anything can happen in that stretch of time as well. We don't even know who all the final teams are. Will Italy even make it or not? I want to give a big thank you to everyone who showed up for this. Everyone who dropped their thoughts in the chat, their questions, who followed along with us, kept us company during that long performance / draw, whatever that was from FIFA. We do really appreciate it, whether you were in the app or you were on the YouTube channel. Thank you so much for joining. My name is Adrian. I appreciate you watching. As always, keep it locked for more from Bleacher Report. We'll see you later. Take care.